Bradley is the catcher, and on the mound is the tall left-hander Randy Johnson, and he is very tall, the tallest player in Major League history. 6 feet 10 inches tall. He's won 3, lost 2. He throws a fastball that, when it's right, is clocked into the upper 90s. He's been clocked as high as 100 miles an hour. You can see that he's very tough to hit, Joe.
Well, anytime you throw 90 miles an hour plus and you have a changeup and he throws a curveball, you're going to be very tough if you throw strikes. I think that's the key. If Johnson can throw strikes, it'll be a long night for the Blue Jays.
So we're eager to get a look at Randy Johnson, who came over here in the Mark Langston trade. We asked Jim Lefevre to tell us about this young left-hander.
Randy Johnson is just a big, hard-throwing left-hander. He's been clocked up as much as 100 miles an hour. I don't think he's effective when he's throwing that hard because his control's a little off, but he does throw hard. He's developing a good feel for his changeup and his curveball. He has to make sure that when he throws his breaking ball, it's got a little tilt to it. Tennessee sometimes, because of his delivery, it's flat, but he can overpower hitters when he's on, and a guy that throws that hard and he gets his breaking ball over, he can be really tough on you.
That's Jim Lefevre. He's very young but very talented Seattle Mariner Ball Club with its very young and many people feel very talented manager, Jim Lefevre. So here's Johnson, and he is ready to face Tony Fernandez, the veteran Blue Jays shortstop. Fernandez, Wilson, and Gruber to start it off for Toronto. Toronto has 4 switch hitters in the lineup. Tony Fernandez, you see, .258 batting average, but 2 homers and 18 RBIs, not a single run batted in right-handed. He's really struggled from that side of the plate.
Well, most of the Blue Jays have really had a few problems with left-handed pitching. Switch hitters are usually better hitters from the left side.
And Fernandez, who's very aggressive, goes right after that first pitch, ended his 0-1.
The reason they're normally better hitters from the left side is because they face more right-handed pitchers than they do left-handed pitchers, so they get in a better groove over the course of the season.
1 strike to count, and that's low for a ball. Now, Randy Johnson, a very fine athlete, as you might expect. He played some basketball in high school, and he accepted a baseball-basketball scholarship to USC, but mostly played baseball there under Rod Dedeaux. He, at 6 feet 10 inches tall, tried the basketball in his junior year and decided he was so far behind everybody else he gave it up. 1-2 the count. He's very excited too, Joe. This whole organization is excited about the future. They've had a difficult past, to say the least. They have never had a winning season. Just outside with the slider.
Well, he is part of their future because he came over in the Langston trade when Langston was traded to Montreal. He came along with Holman and Harris, and they are the future of the Blue Jays. Fine young arms came over from the Montreal Expos.
And that's foul, out of play. 2-2 the count. Now, he throws very hard, but he tends toward wildness, and when he walks people, in the past, he said, that would get him down. He would start to press, but Jim Lefevre says, don't worry about the walks. You're going to walk a few. 3-2 the count. He said Lefevre had him meet Sandy Koufax, and he was surprised to learn that Koufax had the same problem when he was a young pitcher, and Johnson said that built his confidence.
Most people only remember Koufax toward the last 10 years of his career.
Foul again.
When he was probably the best pitcher, one of the best pitchers to ever pitch in Major League Baseball. He had control then, but at the time when he first came up, he was wild, like Randy Johnson, could not get the ball over the plate. In fact, when we talked about throwing 95 miles an hour and having a curveball, that reminded me of Sandy Koufax.
3-2 pitch, and that is foul. So Fernandez battling it out here with Randy Johnson. Lefevre also arranged a meeting for Johnson with Nolan Ryan when they went to Texas last year. Another guy who has walked a lot of hitters over the years, but won a lot of ball games even while doing so. Randy Johnson, quite a specimen, from Livermore, California, 26 years of age. Breaking ball is hit foul down the right field line. Now Johnson, as with many fellas who grew so tall so young, it took him a while to really get a line on his own body, how it works, how to control it, how to coordinate things. He says that since he came over to the Mariners, it's the first time that he really feels like he understands all of that now. That is fouled. 3-2.
I think the one problem that a tall pitcher has is keeping his coordination during the game. Any little thing gets out of kilter, he gets a little tired in his legs, he'll start to be a little more wild. He'll get wilder as the game goes along. Or if he gets his arm gets tired, he'll lose his coordination and he will be wild.
3-2 pitch, finally hit into fair territory. There's the throw to first by Giles, and there is one away. Joe, for a leadoff hitter, though, even though Fernandez is out, pretty good idea to work him deep into the count, make that pitcher show off everything, isn't it?
Well, what you want your leadoff hitter to do, as we get a look at the moose here, is that to make the pitcher have to throw some strikes. You would like to see him throw his curveball. You'd like to see him throw his changeup, slider, all his pitches. You would like to, as a leadoff hitter, give your other teammates a chance to see every pitch that the guy has.
Here's Mookie Wilson, the veteran. Mookie, 34 years of age now, former New York Mets outfielder. And it's ball one. Mookie, a switch hitter, off to kind of a slow start this year. But they gave him a lot of credit last year when he came to the Blue Jays. They felt this is the missing ingredient. Boys had great talent in Toronto, but they've never been able to put it all together. And he was the perfect addition for the stretch run.
And he hit pretty well for them. He did a good job.
That didn't hurt either.
Right. Of hitting, as well as just being the missing ingredient as far as experience is concerned in playing in Major League playoffs and playing in the World Series. 1 ball, 1 strike to Mookie, 1 out, nobody on. Breaking ball is outside. So far, the Jugs gun, keeping tabs here on Johnson, his fastest pitch has been 95 miles per hour. I was going to mention that I don't think he's throwing much harder than that. He doesn't seem to be that overpowering yet.
3-1 the count to Mookie. Kelly Gruber on deck. After you get past Mookie and the leadoff hitter Fernandez before him, then you get into the power for a while in this ball club.
And Kelly Gruber and George Bell can both handle a good fastball.
That's ball 4 to Mookie Wilson. Kelly Gruber coming up. We asked Kelly before the ball game how he prepares to face tall left-hander like Randy Johnson.
Well, Randy Johnson's so tall that, you know, once he lets go of the ball, his hand looks like it crosses home plate. So he's dominating in that sense, and he throws hard. You just hope that he can't control his off-speed pitches, because then he's extra tough because he throws so hard.
So tall that his hand looks like it's coming across home plate. Joe, did that bother you if you had a real big guy out there who threw hard?
Well, watch him. He doesn't come exactly straight at home plate. He falls off toward the third base side, so it's not quite as bad as Kelly might make it seem.
Runner at first, 1 out. Gruber hit a home run last night. He's hit 13 home runs for the year.
But then again, it looks easier sitting here than it does in that batter's box.
That's right. I'm not intimidated at all, Joe. Popped him up. This is Brian Giles, the shortstop. And he's got it. 2 men gone in the first inning. Mookie still over at first base.
One thing that Johnson did there is he stepped directly toward home plate and he threw a strike. He was kind of falling off to the third base side when he was pitching to Mookie. And that might cause him to lose his strike zone. So much movement with his head and his upper part of his body falling toward third.
He said that as you look at George Bell, one of the great RBI men and great cleanup hitters in the game, he's only hitting .261. He's been in a slump. The Blue Jays have been in a slump. Bell hit a long 3-run homer last night. You see 30 RBIs, so he's setting a very fine pace as usual. But Randy Johnson said when something's not right with him now mechanically, he knows it. He never used to know it. It had to be pointed out to him. Curveball for a called strike. And he says that's made a big difference. He can make those adjustments now from pitch to pitch, whereas before he could go a long while making the same mistake over and over again.
Well, he's definitely made an adjustment here after he walked Mookie Wilson. He is stepping directly toward the plate, which gives him a better target, and his release point is staying consistent. That's why he's able to throw strikes to the last 2 hitters.
1 ball, 1 strike. Now in that trade, I mean, they gave away Mark Langston, a proven big league pitcher. They got this fellow, Randy Johnson. They also got Brian Holman, who nearly had that perfect game earlier this year in Oakland. and a hard-throwing young pitcher who just got sent back to the minor leagues named Gene Harris. 1-1 the count. That's foul down the right field line.
George Bell was a little late on the fastball from Johnson. This is what the hitter sees. A super slow motion. You can still see the rotation on the fastball is actually moving away from George Bell, and he fouls it off to the right side.
George Bell down in that familiar crouch. Mookie Wilson is running. Pitch taken. Safe. And Harold Reynolds may have gotten screened out of seeing that throw come in as Mookie passed in front of him, and he got hit by that throw.
Mookie didn't slide, and he blocked the view of Harold Reynolds, and the ball did hit him as it went by.
Matt Sinatra, the catcher, would have done well just to hold on to that ball.
Well, Mookie is normally, you're supposed to slide. It did get leather first. It hit him on the hand, and the ricochet hit him in the chin. Normally you slide even if you have the base stolen easily. But Mookie Wilson chose to go in standing up, and he distracted Harold Reynolds.
Rick Griffin, the Mariner trainer, is out attending to Harold Reynolds, the Seattle leadoff batter. That's Jim Lefebvre out there as well, and the shortstop. Let's see, that's Alvin Davis, the first baseman, has come over.
The ball actually hit Reynolds on the glove hand before it ricocheted up and hit him in the chin. The throw goes down. See how Mookie screens him? It hits his back, then it hits his glove, and then it hits him in the chin. So he didn't get the full brunt of it, but it looks like the stitching on the baseball cut him. Those stitches are very sharp when they're rotating, and apparently one of the stitches cut him.
Harold Reynolds, he's won the Gold Glove each of the last 2 years in the American League, and he's had to beat out some pretty stiff competition from Frank White, who sort of had a long-term lease on that particular piece of hardware. Looks like Reynolds is going to stay in the game, but they're going to have to try to close that wound. Rick Griffin, the trainer there.
Looks like they're going to put a Band-Aid on it.
It's the latest in advanced medical technology. Sort of a piece of adhesive with a little piece of gauze in the middle of it called a Band-Aid, and I think it's available now to the general public as well.
See where Harold Reynolds is? This is why I like to take the throw in front of the bag. I never like to see a second baseman take the throw behind the bag. First of all, the ball has to travel further to get to him, and if he's in front of the bag, he gets it sooner and he can try to tag the sliding runner out. And truthfully, that could have been avoided if he would have been in front, but he acts like he was late getting to the bag. Most of the time you'll see the second baseman take the throw at the bag or in front of the bag. He was still behind the bag.
What do you think, Joe? I think that's a good look for Harold.
Well, Harold is also pointing out that he was playing way over to the right side and he couldn't get to the bag. That's what he was telling the shortstop.
Here is the runner at second, Mookie Wilson. That's his 8th steal in 8 tries, by the way. 2-2 the count to George Bell. 2 down in the first inning. High in the air to straight center. Looking up into the concrete dome of the Kingdome. Ken Griffey Jr. That's the inning. 1 hit, 1 steal, 1 cut, 1 Band-Aid at the end of a half inning, no score. John Miller and Joe Morgan back at the Kingdome in Seattle. A very big crowd out here on a Sunday night this Memorial Day weekend. Now the Sears diehard starting lineup for the hometown team, the Seattle Mariners. Harold Reynolds will be leading it off at second base, a switch hitter. Henry Cotto in left field. Alvin Davis, veteran 300 hitter. Jeffrey Leonard being our RBI man, the designated hitter. Ken Griffey Jr. is hitting 5th. Edgar Martinez is 6th. Darnell Coles, a right-handed slugger, is batting 7th. The last 2 hitters have been shuffled in the order. Bradley and Giles. Giles 8th, Bradley 9th now. 1 adjustment at the last minute there.
And the defense for the Toronto Blue Jays will have Junior Felix in right, Mookie Wilson in center. George Bell is playing left field. Kelly Gruber is at third. Tony Fernandez is the shortstop. Manny Lee is at second. John Olerud is taking over for McGriff tonight at first. Pat Barters is behind the plate, and on the mound, left-hander John Cerruti.
John Cerruti out of Amherst College in Massachusetts. He was a studious fellow, but had always pitched since age 8, and it was always a dream of his to go in the major leagues. And he's really the antithesis of the hard-throwing kind of wild Randy Johnson, Joe.
Well, Cerruti has real good control. He throws a lot of changeups. He moves the ball around, and he has to hit spots. Has a good curveball, but he really mixes his speeds very well. Most of your big hitters will have to hit an off-speed pitch.
The umpiring alignment for this ball game. Joe Brinkman, veteran, is back at the plate. Terry Cooney, who's been around almost as long at first. Rick Reed at second base. And Darrell Cousins, in his 12th year, is at third base. The Blue Jays under manager Cito Gaston. It was just about at this time last year that he became the manager of the club. And once he came in, they really turned their season around, and they won it all in the American League East, losing to Oakland in the championship series. So here's Harold Reynolds with that Band-Aid. Switch hitter batting right-handed and struggling at the start of the season. He's been the last couple of years pretty steady up around the 280 level. Gets on base a lot. No score in the game. This is Gruber to Olerud, and there is one out. We might mention again that the regular first baseman for the Blue Jays, Fred McGriff, was beamed last night on a pitch by Brian Holman. He went to the hospital. They gave him x-rays. The x-rays were negative, and he seemed to be all right. He called his manager Cito Gaston last night and said that he felt all right. He was resting comfortably. He said, I can play tomorrow. But then when he called this morning, he said, I'm very tired. I'd like permission to come to the park a little bit later and miss batting practice. When he said that, Cito said, let's give this fellow the night off. So McGriff is here, and as far as we know, he's okay. But that's always kind of a frightening thing, Joe, that you've got to be very careful when somebody gets hit in the head like that.
Well, thank goodness he had the ear flap on, because that's exactly where the ball hit him.
This is Henry Cotto. 2 balls, no strikes. The Mariners have really been hurt with injuries early in the season. That's outside, 3-0. They're missing in particular a big outfielder by the name of Jay Buhner, right-handed hitter who would be in the lineup tonight if he were here. He's a home run hitter, can reach these fences here for sure. 3-1.
Harold Reynolds hit the first pitch he saw, and you contrast that with Tony Fernandez, who went deep in the count, and now he's walked a second hitter, so it makes you wonder if Harold Reynolds would have taken a pitch, maybe he would have received a walk, and Henry Cotto would be hitting with a man on base, but not with no one out.
If you were managing Joe, would you make it mandatory that your leadoff guy take a pitch and see a few pitches?
No, I don't think you make it mandatory, because I think you have to give him some freedom. But you like for your leadoff hitter to take a pitch or take a strike in his first at bat. But it's kind of tough to make it mandatory. A lot of managers in the past did that, but I think nowadays they kind of leave the leadoff hitter on their own.
You'd offer a few suggestions, maybe?
Of course.
Here's Alvin Davis, a .290 lifetime hitter. And the breaking ball in there for a strike. Davis is 29 years of age. And last year he hit .305. He's had 100 RBIs 2 different years. And you see right there, this is a guy who draws a lot of walks, has a great idea of the strike zone. And who's ever heard of him, Joe? He's kind of a secret out here in Seattle.
Well, the players know him, the opposing players especially. They know that he is a solid third-place hitter.
1 ball, 1 strike. He says he's got a lot of respect for Cerruti. Cerruti's been awfully tough on him in the past. 1 out, 1 on, no score in the game, last of the first. Davis broke in 1984 and was the rookie of the year, drove in 116 runs as a rookie. And that's low, 2-1. Now, Cotto's not the big base stealer maybe that a Harold Reynolds is or some others, but it's tough for anybody to run against John Cerruti. He's got one of those real deceptive moves. Gets a lot of pickoffs every year. Cotto easily back.
He does not lift his leg very high when he goes to first base, nor when he comes to the plate. A lot of left-handers give you the high leg kick, which gives you a lot of time to read them and get a good jump. He cuts everything down short right there. Cotto seems to be comfortable at first base, though. He seems to be able to read him. He has a good stolen base ratio. Attempts to put outs.
And it is 3-1 to Alvin Davis with the Hackman, Jeffrey Leonard, the RBI leader of the Mariners, on deck.
That's why I was surprised that Alvin Davis had problems with Cerruti, because he does not swing at a lot of bad pitches, and he gets a good pitch to hit most of the time. I would think that he would be pretty successful with Cerruti because he doesn't have anything to overpower him with. Part of Cerruti's problem this year has been that he's behind in the count a lot, and he has to make a perfect pitch because he cannot throw the fastball down the middle 2-0.
That's a foul. Full count now, 3-2. That ball down the right field line, right past first base coach Rusty Kuntz of the Mariners.
That's the veteran Alvin Davis hitting right there. He gets a guy 3-1. He has a hole on the right side. So you look for the fastball and you try to pull it in the hole. Because the first baseman is holding the runner on, the second baseman is playing towards second base in double play position. So you have a big hole on the right side. So you take one shot at it 3-1. Now he will go back to hitting straight away.
You think Cotto's running now, 3-2, 1 out?
Well, because they have not had a lot of success off of Cerruti, I would say no, but in this case, because Alvin Davis usually does make contact, I'd say yes. So it's up to Lefebvre. I won't decide for him.
He's going. Olerud. He got him. It was awfully close. Fernandez covering. Cotto wasn't so sure. Rick Reed making the call over there. That was awfully close.
The reason you run is to stay out of the double play, and if their hitter hits a ground ball, you get to second base. Cotto did not get a good enough start. Now he slides into second. He is out. The throw beats him. That's a nice play by Olerud. See, Cotto was taking his turn. He was veering out so he could round the bag, and then he realized it was going to be a close play at second. Then he had to go straight in.
So if he hadn't done that, he makes it easily.
Right. If he runs straight to the bag, he's safe.
Runner at first, 2 down. Here is Jeffrey Leonard. That's a strike right on the outside corner. 0-1 the count. Jeffrey with a low batting average, doesn't get many walks, but he drives in the runs. 32 RBIs among the league leaders in that category.
He drove in a career high 93 last year, and I talked to him about adjustment he had to make from the American League, National League to the American League, and he said that it was really only adjustment he had to make was to be patient. He had a tendency to jump at all the breaking balls when he first came to the American League. He said now all he has to do is be patient, get a good pitch to hit, and he can usually drive in a lot of runs.
In his first at bat last night, he got a pitch right toward his head from Todd Stottlemyre, and he started hollering at Stottlemyre from the home plate area. Toward the porch in right field. It's a short porch out there, but it's going to fall a little bit too short for Leonard's purposes as Junior Felix puts it away. I'll tell you more about what happened last night. There's a little bad blood right now between these clubs. After 1, no score. John Miller and Joe Morgan with ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. We're enjoying our time here in Seattle, but we'll be here for just a little while longer. Tomorrow night will be a part of that triple header on Memorial Day for ESPN. We'll be bringing you the ball game from Cincinnati, the Mets and the Reds, and Joe, I'm eager to get a look at Lou Piniella's Red Hot Ball Club.
Well, they've played great baseball. They've done it with speed and a lot of good hitters and an occasional home run, so they're a very fine ball club. Plus they have good pitching. We've talked about Dave Stewart and how well he's done for the Oakland A's. Jack Armstrong is 8-1 for the Cincinnati Reds, and of course they have the likes of Tom Browning, so they have a very fine ball club. I'm looking forward to getting my first look at them in person as well.
And they've jumped out to the biggest lead of any Cincinnati ball club in first place since the days of your Big Red Machine. 75-76.
Of course, they will be comparing the two eventually, I'm sure.
Well, maybe I'll ask you to compare them tomorrow night, now that I think of it. Here's Pat Borders, and he swings and misses at a high Randy Johnson fastball. You see the plate umpire Brinkman back there actually saying that he foul tipped it. Started to mention about Leonard getting that pitch right toward his head in his first at bat last night from Todd Stottlemyre. Called strike 2. And later in the game, when George Bell hit a 3-run homer to give the Jays a 4-1 lead against Brian Holman, the next hitter up was McGriff, and he got beamed. Although he seemed to didn't move too well on that ball.
Randy Johnson is starting to air it out a little bit. The first 2 fastballs he threw to Borders were probably 2 best fastballs he's thrown in the ball game. So he's starting to get loose out there.
1-2 pitch on the way. Ooh, tough slider. Breaking ball down and in for the strikeout.
Anytime you have a guy that throws 90 miles an hour plus and he can control the slider or the curveball, you're going to be in for a long evening. That's a good slider that breaks down and in, and there's nothing Borders can do with it. You have to commit to the first motion. Right there, it looks like a fastball. You have to go after it, and then it breaks out of off of your swing plane. There's nothing else you can do. You can't adjust to a pitch that quickly.
This is Glenn Allen Hill. And the breaking ball is low. Joe, you said you thought he was throwing harder. The Jugs gun agrees with you. 98 miles per hour. Wow.
From a lot of years of looking at fastballs, I can tell. I don't need the Jugs gun to tell me that he's throwing real hard right now, because he is. He's reaching back, getting a little extra.
Do you ever face anybody quite like Randy Johnson? The combination of speed and so tall.
Well, I don't think anyone has ever come close to Sandy Koufax, especially a left-hander. Koufax threw 95 miles an hour plus, but he also had a great curveball. His ball went straight down the curveball, and it looked like a fastball. So he was probably the toughest I've ever seen.
2-1 the count to Glenn Allen Hill. Hill's got some very good power. He's been a comer in their farm system, which has been a very productive farm system over the years. Pat Gillick, fine general manager of the Blue Jays. Popped him up, right up toward the concrete dome. Harold Reynolds has it. 2 down. Seattle area native John Olerud is coming up. We talked to him.
You know, I was talking to the traveling secretary, and he said that people don't usually use all their tickets when they come here, and so he said there shouldn't be any trouble getting tickets, and so I told my mom about that, and so she kind of went crazy with the tickets, so yeah, that's the reason for that.
That's the reason that he's left over 100 passes for each game of this series. He's a Seattle area fellow, and I think anybody who's ever met him at all during his youth is here tonight. There's his mom, Linda Olerud, looking very proud indeed. Two and oh the count. Dr. John Olerud. That's Olerud, the younger's father. He looks a little more pensive here watching. Olerud had the game-winning hit last night. 4-4 tie, bases loaded, and he bounced a single right up the middle to bring home a couple of runs, and they never gave that lead up. They won the game 11-4. This is one of those rare fellows, Joe, who never played an inning in the minor leagues.
Well, the one thing I like about Olerud is he has good discipline at the plate. He doesn't jump at the ball too often. He sees the ball before he moves, but it's a little tough when you have a guy that throws 95 miles an hour and has a good slider. If you're left-handed, you don't get a chance to face that many, although Olerud hits left-handers very well.
Brian Giles, the shortstop, throws him out. An easy inning for Randy Johnson. No score after 1.5 from the Kingdome. Here's a look at the famed Pike Place Market here in Seattle, down near the waterfront. And then they've got the fresh fish. It's a fish market, also fresh produce, vegetables, and fresh fruit. It's a wonderful place down there. And they've got a little bakery with the best apple fritters in America. I've heard. I've never sampled them. Here's Ken Griffey Jr., and he's first ball swinging, and he's retired just like that. But Joe, we had 1,000 things we wanted to talk about Ken Griffey Jr., and we had a wish to analyze everything he's done. He's gone already. Ken Griffey Jr. One thing that he says is that he doesn't try to analyze anything. He doesn't think about pitching patterns or anything else. He just tries to see the ball and he hits it.
Well, if you can continue to do that, you'll be a better hitter probably in the long run.
Here's Edgar Martinez. Now Griffey went up there with a batting average of .352, and look where this guy's hitting. .352. Edgar Martinez. Who is this? A well-kept secret out here.
One thing about Martinez, he has hit well in all the stops he's made in the minor leagues, and I mean well over 300. So it's not surprising to a lot of people that know about him that he is hitting .350. I talked to Gene Kleins about him before the ball game. He says the guy is a good hitter, and he will continue to hit. He may not hit .352, but he'll hit well. And he hit over 400 in the Puerto Rican League. I think it's the first time it's been done in 40-something years. He led the league by 82 points. So he is a hitter. So it really is not a fluke situation here that you might expect. This is a guy that has credentials to be a good hitter in the major leagues.
Edgar Martinez. He's from New York. However, he resides in Puerto Rico. Born in New York. Grew up down in Puerto Rico. He's got a cousin who's in the big leagues, Carmelo Martinez of the Phillies. Well, he's down. And John Cerruti has to be very pleased with what he's done so far here.
Well, if Cerruti throws strikes, he's usually successful. And I've said that all along about left-handers in the major leagues. If they can throw strikes, they will be successful. Most of the time when they get in trouble is when they cannot throw strikes and then have to come in with a fat pitch. And that's been Cerruti's problem so far this season, getting behind the hitters.
Darnell Cole's the hitter. 2 down, nobody on in the second inning. Cerruti actually lost his job in the starting rotation. And he's only starting tonight in an emergency.
The only reason he's pitching is Jimmy Key has a pulled hamstring and they want to give it a little more rest. So otherwise, Cerruti would still be in the bullpen.
There's the off-speed breaking ball missing. 2-1. David Wells, big, hard-throwing man out of the bullpen, has, for the time being, been given Cerruti's spot in the rotation.
There's one of the main reasons that Coles is playing tonight.
Hernandez. He'll get just about anything hit on the left side of the infield and elsewhere. Great range. Easy play there for him. 3 up and 3 down. Been a pitcher's night so far. Lenny Randle decided he couldn't trust that this roller would go foul, so he blew it foul. Kansas City manager Jim Fry protested to no avail. The Mariners' Lenny Randle and a very strong breath immortalized this day in baseball. 1981. Lenny Randle, he went over to Italy and he played professional baseball over there for a while. I saw him in Anaheim the other day. He's trying to get up a group of former major leaguers to make a tour over there. Here we are at the Kingdome back in 1990, and Manny Lee, switch hitting infielder, leads it off for the Blue Jays. And a foul tip, strike 1. Joe, and Lenny Randle blew that ball into foul ground. They felt they needed to clarify the rules about that. And it's not allowed now.
Yeah, I don't think he actually blew the ball foul personally.
This one is trouble if it's fair, and it's a home run. And the Kingdome strikes here. Manny Lee with a ball down the right field line. He just did clear that 23-foot high wall. It's only 314 feet to that corner.
Well, it's very short down the right field line, and it's a line drive. Even though the ball, it's only 314, he had to hit that about 340 or 350 to get it out of here. It's a fastball that stays on the outside part of the plate, and Lee gets a good piece of it. It was more of a line drive than anything. from our overhead camera, we'll get a look at where the location was. It was 3/4 of the way off the plate toward the outside corner. Wasn't that bad a pitch from Randy Johnson, but good swing by Manny Lee.
For the Blue Jays, certainly no home run hitting. Here is Junior Felix, a switch hitter, very fine young talent. The Blue Jays have hit more home runs than any team in the majors. That was their 61st home run already.
When they first moved into the Sky Dome, they said the ball didn't carry well there. Now I think they have found out that it does carry very well there, and they're hitting a lot of home runs there. In fact, Kelly Gruber hit his first home run on the road here last night.
And fittingly, he hit it here because
we also know that the ball carries well here.
Blue Jays have now hit 4 home runs in this 3-game series. This is the 3rd game. We're only in the 3rd inning. 2-2 to Junior Felix. This guy doesn't look very imposing, but he's got a lot of power.
Cito Gaston says he really drives the ball well. He has a lot of bat speed, and that's why he hits the ball hard.
He's a switch hitter. He's going for that porch in the corner. If this is fair, it's trouble. Gone, a home run. Back-to-back homers. Well, it worked for Manny Lee, and he's not a home run hitter, so Felix takes off after it. This is sort of Fenway in reverse here with the big wall in right field, very shallow.
And actually, the wall in Fenway is the only one in the major leagues that is higher than this one. And Junior Felix is very happy. It's another fastball from Johnson, and it's also toward the outside corner. And Felix drives it. Felix actually hits his a little better than Manny Lee did.
Oh, that was a shot. Here's Fernandez, and he takes high, ball 1.
We talk about the dimensions here, but they're going to move the fence back in left field another 12 feet. They moved it back 10 feet last year, and they're going to move it 12 more.
And that's foul by Fernandez. 2-0 Blue Jays. The Kingdome opened up for baseball in 1976. As you see, only 362 to that left center field power alley. Only 352 to the right center field alley. 314 down the line. If you hit it to straightaway center field, you have to earn it. 410 out there. Out of play by Fernandez. 1-2.
This is really a hitter's ballpark, but the dimensions you gave, really, people think of them as being short now, but in past, like Busch Stadium, it used to be 352 into right center field, 300 down the line. There were a lot of ballparks like that in the past. Fenway Park, of course, we mentioned.
And that's foul.
Yankee Stadium. There were a lot of small ballparks. So as far as foot-wise down the right field line, this is really a normal ballpark in the past. And, 30 years ago, they were all built like this.
Crosley Field in Cincinnati.
Right. There were a lot of small ballparks.
Well, and the game was a little bit different then, too. In the 50s, you had the small ballparks, and everybody tried to load up on some big sluggers, right?
AstroTurf has changed the game because now you need speed to cover the outfield and to cover the infield, because of the speed of the AstroTurf.
That's a pop fly, shallow center. Ken Griffey Jr. got this one timed. And there is finally one away. That's where Johnson wants to get him to hit the ball, out into straightaway center. One of those parks you're talking about, Joe, the Polo Grounds.
Right.
Like 259 down one line, 257 down the other, but it was 480 to straightaway center. And one of the stories when Casey Stengel managed the original Mets, a bad ball club, he had young guys who threw hard, who didn't know much else about pitching. They kept giving up home runs to those short fields. He said, listen, you're throwing 95 miles an hour. Throw it out over the plate, make him hit it to center field. Nobody's ever hit one out in the center field. Lou Brock came up, first game, boom, over the 480 side out in straightaway center. That didn't work either. Mookie Wilson, the hitter. Got fooled on that slider. 1-1 the count. Mookie walked his first time. Well, we've seen the Kingdome now. This is a tough place for a pitcher, which is why they want to move those fences out even more in time for next year. That's foul. Well, now, when you're a left-handed hitter and you go into Fenway Park, I mean, it's the left-handed hitters who win batting championships there. Yastrzemski, Boggs, people like that, Pete Runnels.
Well, the reason Williams would win it because down the right field line was short as well, so you didn't want to pitch him inside, you know, and let him pull it around the foul pole.
That's foul and out of play. But now, a Fred Lindsay in his heyday, or a Wade Boggs, now they can take a tough pitch away and just flick it out to left field, a routine fly ball anywhere else. They hit that wall, and they do it here too.
It always adds to your batting average when you have a comfortable ballpark, because people say, well, you don't hit home runs. Boggs doesn't hit home runs. Yes, but he gets doubles off the wall and he gets singles off the wall that would be caught, you know, in another ballpark. But he uses that ballpark to his advantage.
2-2 the count.
And the same with Freddie Lynn when he played there. They didn't want to pitch him inside because he could hook the ball around the short foul pole in right. So they'd pitch him away and he could hit the short fence and left. So pitchers were at a disadvantage when they pitched in Fenway against some good left-handed hitters.
And anybody was disadvantaged in this ballpark against any kind of hitters. Woody Woodward, the general manager of the Mariners, saying last night the reason they've moved left field out a little further than it used to be, he says, hey, we can handle one short field. Maybe we could stock up on left-handed pitchers to throw hard, and we can exploit that. But you can't have it where both fields are short.
Well, that's the way it is in Minnesota. It's a pretty small ballpark, actually. So it's tough to come up with a good pitching staff and stay there all year to pitch well in that ballpark.
Into the upper deck. 2-2 the count.
Randy Johnson, we talked about how tall he is, 6'10", and we'll get a look at his motion here. High leg kick. He hides the ball pretty well right there. Now he comes out and he comes 3/4 on that. That's a slider. The fastball, he's a little bit more on top. When he drops down there, he throws a slider, which is something that the hitter should be able to pick up. There's a changeup, and he threw that from over the top. If you watch him pretty closely here, you can see that on the fastball, he's up on top, and the changeup. But the slider, he kind of drops down a little bit and throws it a little more 3/4, maybe even almost side on.
3-2 count to Mookie Wilson, and he fouls it out of play. And sorry, Joe, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sure that's something that the bench notices. If you're an opposing player, you sit there and watch the pitcher anyway, and you try to pick up little things like that. Say if he's on top, it's a fastball, and if he drops down, it's a slider. You can see it very well there.
It's way up into the maze of wires and speakers, and Sinatro grabs it. It's a lot easier said than done in this ballpark.
It's a lot easier said than done than picking up that he's throwing over the top with the fastball and from the side with the slider as well. So, but that's something, if you focus on it, you can tell the difference in where his release point is.
You saw in that shot a moment ago, those speakers, they dangle from the big concrete dome with a whole lot of wires bringing them down. And some of those pop files get up there and to go through all of that. There's the new speakers here in the Kingdome. This is part of the refitting of the Kingdome under the new ownership headed by Jeff Smulyan.
No one thing, they're loud.
They are state of the art. Foul off the left field line. 1 ball, 1 strike. It used to be they'd say to me, says, can you do an impression of the public address announcer at the Kingdome? Well, all I'd ever heard from him was it was just one big echo. And it's beautiful in here now.
We were talking about Jeff Smulyan and Woody Woodward and the things that they've done here. I want to thank them for the hospitality that they've shown us here in Seattle. They were very glad to have us come in and televise this ball game. So I want to thank them for the hospitality that they have shown me here. And it's been wonderful.
2-1 delivery on the breaking ball. 2-2 the count. Well, they seem like very good people, and they seem to be very positive thinkers about this area. The previous ownership did not seem to put much money into the ball club, and there really was kind of a dark cloud that was hanging over this franchise. Now people are beginning to feel like things may happen here in the future, that this could be a winning franchise for a long time to come. 2-0 Toronto. We'll be back. Thank you, Dave. And the Mariners trying to make that Well, he's happy anyway, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
He was looking for somebody to hit one deep, though. And they got young Mariner fans out here. It's the season ticket holder of tomorrow. The Mariners coming up. Brian Giles, the hitter. And he takes a called strike. Omar Vizquel, who did a great job defensively for the Mariners at shortstop last year, has been in the disabled list and is currently in the minor leagues. He might get back in the next couple of weeks. So they've been platooning out there. But this fella, who's been around a long time, but not a whole long time in the big leagues, what a day he had in Toronto last week at the Sky Dome. He had a career. He had a 3-run homer and a grand slam homer.
Actually, he's been just, his consistency has been his problem. He's had a lot of good days in the major leagues, but he just cannot get any consistency.
Brian Giles. He was at one time a battery mate. There's the story on what he did 10 days ago at the Sky Dome, much to the amazement of everybody, himself included. Used to be a keystone partner of Wally Backman for a brief time in the early 80s with the Mets. 1-2 the count. John Cerruti, 29 years of age. He's always been a slow starter. This year's no different. Maybe a little slower this year than in the past. But, Joe, he feels like this is important for him. He got the chance to start because of the injury to Key. He feels now if he has a good performance that he can earn his way back into that rotation. He doesn't like it in the bullpen. Get me out of the bullpen, he says.
Well, one of the problems that the Blue Jays have is that when the season started, they had a set pitching staff. Everything looked great. All of a sudden now they are looking for pitching. They cannot get any good starters to go 5 or 6 innings anymore. They released Mike Flanagan, and I think, knowing what they know now, they may not release Mike Flanagan because they definitely need some pitching. And as well as they're hitting, they have to have some pitching to go along with that offense.
1-2 the count to Brian Giles. This is the Memorial Day weekend, 3-day weekend holiday, but also a very special day tomorrow, Memorial Day. And he's a veteran. Salute he and all veterans. Tomorrow, happy Memorial Day to you. 2-2 the count to Giles. Well, one thing with Cerruti in there and also with Flanagan, I think they felt maybe they had too many soft tossing left-handers.
Well, and Jimmy Key, they're all three are pretty similar. I agree, but you need some guys that know what pitching is all about. They know how to pitch.
One thing too with Flanagan they found out as other teams began talking with him. Turns out his shoulder is bad right now. He needs some rehabilitation work. Apparently the Boston Red Sox are interested enough in getting a veteran like Flanagan. They're saying, well, rehab for a couple of months and come on with us.
It's a good job of pitching there by Cerruti. He stayed away from Giles. He threw the fastball away, changeups away, and finally he got Giles hit a ground ball to Manny Lee at second base. This fastball tails toward the outside corner, and all Giles can do is throw his bat at it, and he hit a ground ball at second base. Location is what makes this a good pitch. And with 2 strikes, it's actually off the plate, but you can do that with 2 strikes. You do not have to throw strikes to most hitters if you get ahead of them in the count. They will eventually chase a pitch off the plate.
This is Matt Sinatro. He drives one toward the wall, but not nearly deep enough. An easy play for Junior Felix out there. 2 down. And we'll go to the top of the order for Harold Reynolds here. Here's the Kingdome, also the home of the Seattle Seahawks, who always sell this place out. Jeff Smulyan talking about marketing this club and trying to go out and reach out for fans. He said he went up to Anchorage, Alaska, met with some sports fans up there. They said, oh, we're big sports fans up here. We love football. And he said, yeah, what team do you love? He says, hey, the Seahawks. That's our team. We go down and see the Seahawks. And a lot of people do from Anchorage. He says, what about basketball? Oh, we love basketball. So what team do you follow? Oh, we follow the Seattle Supersonics, of course. He says, well, all right, then what about baseball? Oh, we love baseball up here. We're really big on baseball. It's probably bigger than any of those other places, other sports. And he says, and what baseball team do you follow? And the guy says, the Kansas City Royals. So Smulyan says, that's one of the problems that they're trying to overcome with their marketing. And
well, that is a problem.
They've got a lot of people down from Canada for this weekend series, and not just because the Blue Jays are in here, but because they went up there. They marketed it aggressively. They made this a special Canadian weekend in here, and they get 6,000 or 7,000 people for each game this weekend down from British Columbia.
This is the second time through the order for John Cerruti, and this time Harold Reynolds has taken some pitches, got a good pitch to hit, and singles to center field.
And that's the first hit of the game for the Seattle Mariners.
You get a guy 3-1, and he has to give you a pitch to hit, and Harold Reynolds drives it into center field. It's a 3-1 pitch from Cerruti. He doesn't want to walk him, so he throws him a fastball in the middle of the plate, and he lines it right back past Cerruti. That is a tough thing to do, throw a baseball and then get ready and field a line drive coming back at you. Although he was upset, he'll miss that ball 99% of the time.
I love that super slow-mo where we can take a look and see a shot like that. That ball came right back at him. Just barely hitting the glove. Henry Cotto batting with 2 down, runner at first. It is 2-0 Toronto, leading the game. John Cerruti, his idol as a youngster, was Ron Guidry. He doesn't pitch like Guidry, but nonetheless, he was fascinated with Guidry. There's a base hit for Cotto. Bell over to cut it off. Reynolds is going to hold on there at second base. Hold on to the helmet and hold on to the bag. Now the Kingdome is coming alive as Alvin Davis gets ready to bat. The table is set for the veteran Alvin Davis.
Davis only has 13 runs batted in this year, so he's off to a slow start in that category, but he does drive in runs for the Mariners.
Well, he has not hit well with men in scoring position, not as well as he usually has, but also those hitters in front of him have been slumping a little bit. They haven't been on the base as much as they will be, particularly Reynolds when he gets going. Starts him off with a strike. Alvin Davis is a guy who's been able to put this park to work for him. He's hit about 350 in this ballpark over the years. Hit it off his foot. That's a foul ball. So Cerruti is ahead on the count now, 0-2. See his career record versus Cerruti. Now he says he hadn't done well. That's before tonight, but Joe,
I said that I was surprised to hear that because he's patient and he makes Cerruti give him a pitch to hit. So that's more like what I would think he would have done against Cerruti.
And yet when Davis remembers it, he doesn't think he's done well.
Well, a lot of times as a hitter, you only remember certain games where you might have had one bad game against a guy and it sticks out in your mind, so you say you don't hit him well. But I just couldn't see where Cerruti would have enough to overpower Alvin Davis or a good enough breaking ball that Alvin couldn't handle it.
Reynolds at second, Cotto at first. Both ready to go in anything. 2 down, 2-0, Toronto leading. Third inning. In the dirt and right by Borders. The runners will advance. Reynolds over to third, Cotto over to second. Now Davis has a much better opportunity here. A base hit will tie it.
Cito Gaston is wondering what's going on. This is a slider, and he lets it go too quickly and just breaks right down into the dirt. I should say he held on it a little too long, trying to really snap the slider off, and it bounces past the catcher.
A ball and 2 strikes to Davis. A base hit could now tie the game. Cotto, the runner at second, the possible tying run, runs very well. Davis hit into a force play his first time. Now he backs away.
As a base runner on AstroTurf, you have to make sure you get a bigger lead at second than you normally would. You have to make up another step or so because the ball gets to the outfielders quicker, and they can use the AstroTurf on their bounce to get the ball to home plate quicker.
And Olerud will take it, and the Mariners leave those runners on base. So they got something going with 2 down, but Alvin Davis is not able to bring it to fruition. 2-0 Toronto. And that's downtown Seattle, known as the Emerald City. And there's a peek at the cuisine here inside the Kingdome. Little tortilla chips covered with some sort of cheese and some jalapenos, perhaps, or picante sauce on top of that. Nachos, even here in the Pacific Northwest. Seattle, a beautiful city surrounded by strikingly beautiful mountains, and most notably Mount Rainier, 14,500 feet. A classic shield volcano which kind of keeps guard on the city. Here's Bell. Going to make Griffey run a little bit, but no trouble for Ken Griffey Jr. out there. Bell is quickly retired. He's 0 for 2 in the game. 2-0 Toronto leading. Griffey's got a little room in this ballpark, Joe. It's funny to say, but in this small ballpark, he does have some room in center field to show what he can do out there.
Well, I think they're going to move the fences back a little bit, and he's going to have a little more room to cover. So I think the Mariners are going to take advantage of the fact that they have a great young center fielder.
Pat Borders swinging and missing against Randy Johnson. Johnson victimized by the short home run porch in right field in the 3rd inning. Borders has developed some power this year. He's got 6 home runs already, a career high. And all of his home runs have been hit against left-handed pitching.
I think the one thing that impresses me most about Griffey is they're talking basically about how good a hitter he is and how much power he has. But this guy is also a great center fielder, and he's only going to get better. I mean, some of the plays I've seen him make in the highlight film are just unbelievable for a guy 20 years old. And just to think that he's going to get better as soon as his concentration expands a little longer.
That's a foul pop. Alvin Davis comes down to help out Sinatro, and Borders fouls out the first. 2 down. We're in the 4th inning at the Kingdome.
One of the things that Griffey told me is that his problems are, if he needs something to work on, it's his base running.
See, Johnson's throwing the ball hard, but at 98, that's the highest of the game for him. We're at the 4th. Here is Glenn Allen Hill now with 2 down. Pops it up. Not a first ball swinging in this inning. Brian Giles, and he's got it. But we'll see Ken Griffey Jr. at the plate again, maybe for a little longer than the last time. He'll be up second. We go to the last of the 4th, 2-0 Blue Jays. Baseball tonight on ESPN. All week long, every night. If it's happening in baseball, you'll hear about it. You'll see it happen on Baseball Tonight. Some fans here hoping that the Mariners can get it started here. The power's up. Leonard, the hitter. Center field, and it's going to be a routine play for Mookie Wilson. And there's 1 out, and that will bring up Ken Griffey Jr. 2-0 Toronto leading. Joe, you started to mention in the previous inning that one of the main areas that Griffey needed improvement at this point was his base running.
Well, he says his attention span doesn't last long enough when he gets on base. He just needs to concentrate a little harder while he's on base. I think that's the problem that he does have.
There he is, Ken Griffey Jr. Griffey, a much different kind of a player than his dad.
Yeah, but they're very similar in that they're both had a lot of natural talent. His father had a lot of natural talent as well. He had a little more speed, I think, than Junior.
And he's first ball swinging again, but this time for a base hit. So Griffey with a base hit. You know, the first time he ever batted in the big leagues, he hit a double. The first time he ever batted in this ballpark, the Kingdome, he hit a home run on the first pitch. He has a flair for the dramatic. The first time he ever pinch hit, he hit a 2-run homer.
We'll get a look at Manny Lee. He makes a good break on the ball, and he runs correctly. That's straight across, because if you run back on AstroTurf, the ball will get away from you.
Griffey, he looks very pleased.
Well, he didn't have a good swing. He just got a base hit on that. Ground ball up the middle. He hit it in the right spot.
So you got to be pleased when that happens. This is Edgar Martinez. Now, each one of these fellas, Griffey, who's over at first, and Martinez at the plate, came into this game hitting .352. Only Ozzie Guillen of the White Sox is ahead of them in the American League. These are some new names at the top of the list.
And good, refreshing. It means that they've got a lot of good young players in the American League coming along.
Going to see Guillen next week on Sunday Night Baseball. 1 ball, 1 strike now to Martinez. He'll be in Chicago. The Minnesota Twins will play at the venerable Comiskey Park next Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern. We're with you every Sunday at 8 o'clock all through the baseball season. See Martinez, he's been hot for the year, but particularly hot lately. Griffey got picked off of second base last night, a big spot in the ball game.
Well, I think there again, he was telling me his concentration. He lost his concentration and didn't do a good job. 7 steals out of 12 attempts also needs a little work there. But we keep forgetting that the kid's only 20 years old. And we expect him to have the enthusiasm of the young guys, but we want him to have the attitude of a veteran, and you can't do that.
Jim Lefebvre, the manager of the Mariners, a fellow who says about Ken Griffey Jr., he says years from now we'll all remember. We'll all be able to say we were there to see it get started. Martinez with a liner, but it's hanging in the air and dropped by Felix. But they're going to get the force out at second. Boy, what an exciting way to get the out.
Well, it goes as a fielder's choice.
The old 9-6 force out at second.
Right fielder, number 33, Darnell.
Junior, catch those balls when they come to you like that.
Actually, he was going to have a shot at Griffey at first base if he caught it. I think he might have taken a look at Griffey at first. The ball bounces right up to him. If it bounces away, Griffey would have been able to make it to second base. See, Griffey gets a pretty big lead there. Now he tries to go back. Now he has to reverse his field one more time. Nothing he can do about that.
Well, now they've got Martinez at first as Darnell Coles takes a big cut, fouls it back, 0-1. 2-0 Toronto, last of the 4th, 2 down, runner at first. Felix, I'd have to agree with you on that, Joe, because he's got a great arm. He loves to show it off, too.
And he was charging the ball, and Griffey was kind of caught halfway. He didn't know exactly where he should go on that line drive, and when Felix dropped it, of course, he had to try to make the second, but he couldn't get there in time.
And it's 1-1. Mariners are anxious to get themselves straightened out here. They've lost 3 in a row, including a couple of heartbreakers here. One to Cleveland on Thursday and one in 11 innings to the Blue Jays on Friday. Lefebvre says every time they get to 500, they go into a little bit of a losing streak. They can't get over that barrier. He thinks psychologically, if they can get to 500 and then get over that hump, he thinks they can really put something big together.
Well, I think that is the key. You have to get over 500 and feel like you are a contender, and then psychologically you will go forward. Right now they're just struggling trying to get to 500.
Junior Felix will try and put the squeeze on this one. In foul ground. He's got it. 1 hit, 1 left for the Mariners. 2-0 Toronto at the end of 4. We'll be back. Thanks, Dave. That's Dave Marish at Baseball Tonight. We're in the Kingdome, the home of the Mariners. This is John Miller along with Joe Morgan. There's a fellow who's got a few all-stars he wants to vote for.
There's that time of the year.
Another fellow sitting next to him, pondering, not quite sure yet. This guy wants to fill out a bunch of them, though. And I have a feeling he wants to put Griffey's name on all of them. Ken Griffey Jr. It'd be interesting to see how many votes he does get. And yes, thank you very much. We're delighted to be here. John Olerud leads it off. It'd be interesting to see how many votes Griffey does get for the All-Star. I mean, he's got a lot of publicity, big cover story in Sports Illustrated.
He's also going up against some pretty good talent. Kirby Puckett, Jose Canseco,
Ricky Henderson.
All right.
John Olerud's got over 100 people here tonight for whom he left passes, and including his fan club. No wonder he's got a fan club if he leaves that many passes. 2-0 the count. When you used to go in with the Reds into the Bay Area, did you get stuck for a lot of tickets?
Not anywhere near that amount.
So I know why, because you told him, listen, I can't do it. 2-1 the count. The ball player's allowed, what, 6 for himself?
Yeah, 4 for family and 2 for friends. I don't think I've ever had more than maybe 15 or something like that. Had a lot more for the World Series, but in Oakland.
3-1 the count now to Olerud. Olerud has done very well against left-handed pitching. He's 11 for 26 against the lefties, hitting over 400. So he's got a nice pure swing. And he walks. Mariners made a move today. Dave Valley, they've been hoping not to have to put him on the disabled list. He's their regular catcher, hits with power. Put him on the DL, and they brought Gene Harris, a pitcher, back from the minors. And that's Harris with the jacket on his right arm there in the bullpen. Another one of the trio of pitchers acquired who have pitched here in Seattle in the Mark Langston trade with Johnson and Holman, and there's Gene Harris. Something he's got the best arm of any of them. He throws,
yes,
yeah.
Throws very well. Throws hard, has a good breaking ball.
Here's Manny Lee. He hit a home run into the porch in right his first time. And when Felix followed that with a home run, the Jays had a 2-0 lead. That's what it is right now. We're in the 5th. This ballpark with that wall in right field gives you some interesting things that can happen here along the lines of Fenway Park with the big wall, Old Ebbets Field. Ooh, Johnson almost threw that one away. Now they show the out-of-town scores out there. They've added a scoreboard, which really I think is essential for any ballpark. Got to hand it to him for that. A stroke of genius. Woody Woodward, that was his idea. But a lot of things can happen when a ball hits that wall in right field now, which kind of makes it intriguing. There's that scoreboard with all of the out-of-town scores. If it hits that wall above the padding where those pennants are, it shoots right back at you if you're an outfielder. If it hits that scoreboard, it just kind of drops straight down. If it hits an edge there, no telling where it'll go. One of the edges of the scoreboard. 0-2 the count to Manny Lee. 1-2. When they first put that wall up out there, this is years ago, the old regime here, they had a contest. They said, let's name the wall. Boston's wall is the Green Monster. I'm not sure if it really captured the public's imagination, but one of the favored nicknames for the wall was the Walla Walla. There's a strike 3 swinging by Lee. And of course, Walla Walla is it's a city here in Washington State. It didn't catch on, though, perhaps fortunately.
It's a good slider down and in, and Manny Lee chases it. It's a good spot for it. It starts just above the knees and breaks down out of the strike zone, and Lee can't hold up.
Randy Johnson, a very intense fellow. He says sometimes he gets a little too emotional out on the field, but he says that's just the way he is. He feels like if he calmed down out there, he might lose an edge. That's a base hit for Junior Felix. So Felix follows up his 3rd inning home run with a 5th inning single. And the lower third of the order here has set the table for the top of the order. Felix is 2 for 2.
Well, I think Felix went up looking for the slider, and he gets it, and he pulls it in the hole between short and third. A nice piece of hitting. He hit a fastball the last time. Now he gets the slider right here, and he pulls it in the hole. I think, as I mentioned, he was looking for it because that's the way he pitched Manny Lee, the hitter, before. Manny hit a home run off a fastball. He came back and got him out with sliders.
2 on, 1 out. Fernandez, the hitter. Ball 1. Junior Felix is an intriguing fellow, by the way, the runner over there at first base. He's only 22. We're talking about young Ken Griffey Jr. Here's Junior Felix, only 22. Never played baseball from early childhood until he was 18. Epi Guerrero, the fabled Blue Jays scout down in Latin America, discovered him at a track meet when he was 18. Says, let's see you hit a baseball. and he can hit him. 1-1 the count to Fernandez.
I actually believe that that's one of the problems that baseball is having right now, is that they're looking too much for pure speed. Of course, Junior Felix is a baseball player, but a lot of times they're grading guys on speed rather than their baseball ability or their baseball instincts. They're just looking for speed nowadays.
A ball and a strike to Fernandez. Inside, ball 2. Blue Jays have really perhaps done as good a job, maybe a better job than any other ball club. And you see Cito Gaston, he's benefiting from it down in Latin America, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. There's a wealth of baseball talent there. They have a passion for the game, and especially with Epi Guerrero down there, they have led the way in going down to exploit that talent.
The Giants, I think, was the first team to really take advantage of, the Puerto Rican leagues and the Dominican Republic and all those places, because they've had a lot of great players come through their system. They don't have as many now, but in the early days of the San Francisco Giants, they brought a lot of Latin players to the major leagues.
Well, there's ball 4 to Fernandez. It's the second walk of the inning by Randy Johnson, and the bases are loaded for Mookie Wilson. 3 walks in the game now. And Jimmy Lefebvre is going to go out and counsel his young left-hander. Well, one thing when a ball player comes up from the Caribbean or South America, he's got a lot of adjusting to do coming to a strange country. As you see, the Mariners are getting the bullpen ready now. Brent Nackard, a very young, hard-throwing pitcher, starts to warm up out there. But I was talking to Tony Fernandez. Not only did he have to learn the language when he got here, but he changed his name. His name is Octavio. And I said, when you're home, by what are you called? By your friends, your family? He says, well, I'm either called Octavio or I was called Cabeza, which means head. Now, it doesn't translate well, but his mother never called him by any other name other than Cabeza, which was a nickname and a term of endearment. 1 strike to count. He says also it's not Fernandez. I mean, he goes by that here, but his name is Octavio Fernando. I said, why don't you have a press conference like Guillermo Hernandez did? Say you're changing your name to its original form. Get a lot of good publicity for it. He's going to think about it. Bases loaded for the Blue Jays. Mookie Wilson quickly in a hole, though. 0-2 the count. Gruber is on deck. 2-0 the score. Toronto. The pitch toward the big wall and right. Let's see if it's deep enough to get Olerud home. There's the catch. He's going to score without drawing a throw. Going to third base is Felix. Fernandez holds it first. And it is 3-0. Toronto. Mookie Wilson got the runner home despite being in a hole there.
Third baseman Kelly Gruber.
Well, the one thing you want to do if you're Mookie Wilson in that situation is make sure you get the ball in the air. If you can't get a base hit, at least hit it deep enough to get the runner home from third, and he did that.
There's Junior Felix over at third base now. Tony Fernandez or Octavio Fernando Cabeza is over at first base. Kelly Gruber, the hitter, 13 home runs. He hit a shot here last night. He's 0 for 2 in this game. Pops it up and out of play. Every time you see a ball go up there, it goes through all those wires and speakers, and there are some stories about those wires and speakers that we may get into a little bit later on. Been some would-be home runs that got intercepted by some speakers in this park.
Plus, you can see the light gray ceiling here. The ball is not easy to pick up against that type of a background.
0-1 the count. Randy Johnson trying to wriggle off the hook here. Blue Jays threatening a big inning. Bases loaded, 1 out. They got 1 run home. Johnson, after Lefebvre's visit, throwing strikes, went 0-2 on Mookie. He's 0-1 on Gruber. Straight back and out of play. 0-2 the count. George Bell is on deck. He would be next. This is a spot here where Toronto could really bust this game wide open right now.
I was talking to George Bell before the ball game, and he said that Kelly Gruber is getting the benefit from him hitting behind him because they're pitching to Kelly.
There's a high drive into deep left field. Going back, Cotto at the wall. Jumps. And he caught it. Give me 5. Henry Cotto went right back to get it, and Gruber can't believe it.
Cotto gets back to the wall, finds the wall, and makes a great catch.
Wow, they're still in the game. 3-0 Blue Jays. A great catch by Henry Cotto on the would-be extra base hit by Gruber, but the Blue Jays weren't so sure. Let's take another look.
The good thing that he does here, John, is that he goes back and he finds the wall. See, he looks for the wall. Now he reaches out right there. Now he makes contact with the wall. Now he knows where he is. Now he's ready to go as far as he can and as high as he can for the baseball. You see a lot of outfielders run right to the wall and jump. He went back, found the wall, and went to the highest height he could get to and made the catch. Perfect timing. I think that's the key here. He has perfect timing, and that was all started by the fact that he went back and found the wall first. Great play by Henry Cotto.
Henry Cotto. Now, after that, Cito Gaston went out on the field and got into a bit of a discussion with the umpires. It's difficult because that wall out there, the upper half of it is made of plexiglass. It's absolutely clear.
Well, Cito was not sure that Cotto caught the ball before it bounced off the fence. It was very close, but the ball hit the glove before it hit the fence.
See that that wall extends up to 16 feet high. Looks like Wayne Gretzky should be skating alongside that board there. 1 ball, 1 strike to count to Brian Giles. 3-0 Toronto. Blue Jays came close to busting it wide open, but the Mariners are still very much alive as they try and get something going against that man John Cerruti, who has dazzled them so far. He's allowed just 3 hits and just 1 walk. He's had some trouble spots, but he's been able to minimize the difficult situations. They've had 2 men on in the same inning only once. That's headed for the big wall and right. I think he's going to clear it. Brian Giles, Blue Jay killer. He's done it again. His 3rd homer against the Blue Jays.
Brian Giles takes a fastball and he goes the other way, and this is kind of like the green monster for left-handed hitters here in the Kingdom. It's a fastball tailing away, and Giles goes the other way with it, but he hits the ball real hard. He hits the ball well to right field. See the target? He goes right into the pitch and drives it to right field.
Now here's Matt Sinatro, and he takes a strike, so it's 3-1. 3 balls hit over that big wall in right field. What an inviting target that is. All by right-handed hitters. That misses for a ball. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Well, it's a short wall in the fact that it's only 314 feet to the right field fence.
Giles, now having gone deep against Cerruti, he hit the grand slam last week, 10 days ago at the Sky Dome against Frank Wills in the same game in which he'd already hit a 3-run homer. So that's 3 homers and 8 RBIs in just the last couple of games he's played against Toronto.
This is the kind of ball game where Toronto has taken the lead, but they're not able to put Seattle away. They've had a couple of opportunities to do so. They haven't been able to do that, and you let the team hang around, especially the home team.
That's a base hit from Matt Sinatro.
And before you know it, you're in a tie ball game or you're behind.
The Mariners, they are very potent, particularly just like the Red Sox in Fenway when they play here in the Kingdom.
Cerruti makes a pretty good pitch. He keeps the ball down. It's a breaking ball. It's out of the strike zone, but Sinatro stays with it and pulls it in the hole. Watch how he stays right there. It's a nice swing. Keeps his head in there and uses basically just an arm swing to drive it into the hole.
Matt Sinatro doing it his way.
Oh. All apologies to Frank, of course.
Top of the order, here's Harold Reynolds. Now, he grounded out his first time, but on a 3-1 pitch, he singled in the third. He's 1 for 2. Nobody out in the inning. The Mariners getting it going now for the first time. Big hitters are coming up a little bit later in the inning. And it's ball 2. Not too many 2-0 counts from Cerruti to anybody in this game.
You can hear in the background they're playing the Beatles tune, "I Need Some Help." That's what has made this place so much fun for the fans. All situations, they play some type of music to expound on that situation.
Fouled away by Reynolds. Well, they really want to make this a fun place to be. They want families to come out here. They wanted to enjoy baseball, but they want them to enjoy the whole panorama of being at the ballpark as a family event. They went to the Walt Disney people and started talking about putting holograms up on the ceiling, putting clouds up there in the daytime, things like that, putting on a lightning or something to go off in the ceiling as a hologram when the guy hits a home run. And it'll be interesting to see what all they do as the time goes on. One thing they have instituted here, which is incredible because it's indoors, when they hit a home run, they set off fireworks up there at the top of the dome indoors. 3-1 the count. Reynolds down the right field line. If it's fair, it's trouble. And it goes foul. Just couldn't make it stay fair.
Most of your right-handed hitters who have success against left-handed pitching will be guys that hit the ball the other way or back through the middle, because the left-hander's ball naturally tails away from the right-handed hitter. So if you go with it, you have a better chance of getting the base hit. And I think Cito Gaston is starting to worry just a little bit about Cerruti, because he knows that Cerruti had not pitched well in 11 of his previous 12 starts, and he had put him in the bullpen and had to bring him out just for this start.
3-2 to Reynolds. Henry Cotto on deck. Matt Sinatro, the runner at first. Not a whole lot of speed there. He's running in the right field. Junior Felix. Plenty of room. No chance to throw in behind Sinatro. And there's one away. Reynolds retired.
That's the type of manager that Jim Lefevre is. He will hit and run. He will do things even though he's down in the score. He's behind 3-1. And a lot of managers, when they get behind, they will not hit and run in that situation because they're afraid of the strikeout and the thrown out stealing. So they play it safe. But Jim Lefevre is not that type of manager.
Now Henry Cotto. Cotto has walked and singled, and he has a 12-game hitting streak going. Foul off the third base side. He's hitting .312 for the year. He's a role player. He can steal a base. He's a very good outfielder.
You mentioned the fact they're missing Jay Buhner and also Pete O'Brien. But the guys that have taken their spots, Henry Cotto has done a great job.
Now Dave Valley on the DL today. Through the middle. But Fernandez is there. Manny Lee for one. They got the double play. Manny Lee got a little surprised by that feed from Fernandez, but he turned it in. 6-4-3, and they're out of trouble, leaving the power on the bench. John Miller and Joe Morgan back at the Kingdome. 3-1 Toronto ahead. The Mariners rally. Snuffed out there, Joe, on the double play to end the inning.
Well, it's a fine play by Tony Fernandez and Manny Lee. They work well together. Fernandez goes behind the back, flips to Lee, and he flips to first. Because he has a good, strong arm, he was a shortstop, Manny Lee. He gets enough on the throw just by flipping it to double up the runner at first base. Nice 6-4-3 double play.
And that's a big time to make sure you turn it, too, with the big hitters coming up. Here's George Bell. Speaking of big hitters, he's 0 for 2 in this one. Ryan Giles going to get him? Nope. Base hit for George Bell, his first hit of the game.
Well, what happened there was the shortstop Giles ran away from the ball. He went toward left center field. And then you run away from the ball on AstroTurf. Right there, he runs away from it. Anytime you do that, you can forget making the play at first base. Because you're off balance, you can't get anything on the throw. And when you have a speedy runner like George Bell, you're not going to have a chance to get it.
So he's at first, and now Pat Borders, the catcher, will come up. Borders is 0 for 2. He struck out and fouled out. 3-1 Toronto. We're in the 6th inning at the Kingdome. 0-1 the count. Randy Johnson. He says his next project is to learn how to hold base runners on more effectively. He's not been good at it. It's fouled out of play. Earlier this year in the game he pitched, a team stole 6 times against him.
Well, he has a big high leg kick from the windup and the stretch position. So if a guy wants to take off and he's not picked off, he's going to get a good running start because it takes him a long time to deliver the ball to the plate. The only positive part of his motion is that he throws hard so the ball gets to the plate a little quicker than some other pitchers. But there's a lot of running time from the time he starts his motion to the point where he delivers the ball to the plate.
0-2 the count to Borders. Glenn Allen Hill, another right-handed hitter, is on deck. Bell at first, nobody out. That one is gone down the left field line, and it is 5-1 Toronto. Borders with his 7th home run. Oh, he jumped on that one.
It looked like a hanging slider, and he just pulled it down the left field line, and it doesn't take much to get it out of here.
5-1 Blue Jays. That's 3 home runs in the game for Toronto. They lead the majors in that category.
It's a high slider. Borders gets under it and drives it right down the left field line, and it's coming right into your living room.
I got it.
No, you take it.
Some guy down there got it. Foul tip by Glenn Allen Hill. He's popped out twice, 0 for 2. Well, this has long been a problem for Mariners pitchers. This ballpark does not work in their advantage. That's a high fly ball to center. Griffey will come in a little bit. Out number 1.
First baseman John Oliver.
Bullpen activity for the Mariners. There's Brian Clark, a left-hander, veteran. We're in the 6th, 5-1. Olerud, the hitter. He is grounded to short, and then he walked leading off the 5th and scored a run. Strike 1. Johnson said that when he first got to the big leagues, he threw so hard that he thought that that would suffice. I guess that's true with a lot of young guys who throw hard. And he said he was always astonished when some guy would hit his 97-mile-an-hour fastball out of the park.
Some hitters can hit, they're good fastball hitters in the major leagues, and they can hit it. I don't care how hard you throw it if it doesn't have a lot of movement on it.
1-2 the count. Well, he's given up the home runs in this ball game. Maybe a couple of them wouldn't have been home runs anywhere else. And that's low. 2-2.
Well, one thing that happens when you hang a slider, the breaking balls with a little less spin on it, they will go farther than a regular fastball if you catch it right.
3-2 now to Olerud. Andy Lee is on deck.
Some of the longest home runs I've seen ever that I ever saw hit was
Strike 3. Got him looking.
Off the breaking ball.
second baseman Manny Lee.
As I mentioned, he drops down when he throws a slider. See how he comes sidearm almost here. And there's a slider that breaks on the inside corner, and Olerud is caught looking.
Manny Lee has homered and struck out. And he takes ball one too high. Manny Lee, you hear his name a lot in trade rumors because they've got Nelson Liriano, who can play second base. Lee can play second. He can play short. He's got a very strong arm. And forever, when a team needs a middle infielder, you hear Manny Lee's name brought up. If the Jays have a need somewhere, they say, well, they may trade Manny Lee for this guy or that guy.
I think the reason you mentioned that he plays shortstop, I think that's the reason he will remain a Toronto Blue Jay. And if anything happens to Tony Fernandez, he can move over to shortstop. And you do not trade a guy like Manny Lee unless you're going to get a great player in return. And Cito Gaston has resisted just about every trade offer that has involved Manny Lee. So I'm pretty sure that he's going to remain a Toronto Blue Jay unless they get in trouble where they have to have some more pitching.
3-2. Well, and Manny Lee brings a few other attributes to the ballpark. He's a switch hitter. He hits well. He runs well. Can do a lot of different things. This ball club has a wealth of talent. They've got it off the bench, in the lineup, and out of the farm system. Broke his bat on that one, but he's on base. Reynolds might have had a hard time throwing him out, even had he been able to pick up the ball.
Well, Reynolds had to try to catch it so that he was in position to release it quickly to try to get Manny Lee at first base because he runs well. I don't think he was going to have a chance anyway. Reynolds gets a good jump, and you see he runs across to the ball. He doesn't run away from it, because if you run away from it, you have to cover more ground, and you're giving the runner time to run toward first base. He tried to make the play all in one motion, and he couldn't, so it's a base hit.
And it may, well, in fact, it has taken Randy Johnson right out of this game. Brian Clark is coming in from the bullpen. Randy Johnson knocked out here in the 6th inning. Junior Felix with a home run and a single coming up, and he's not going to get another shot at Randy Johnson. 5-1 Toronto leading in the 6th. Courtesy of that man, Pat Borders, with his 2-run homer, opening up a nice lead for the Jays. The once and current Mariner, Brian Clark, came up with his club a number of years ago. Back with them now. He's a veteran, Joe.
Well, when he first came up, he looked like Brian Clark was going to be a great pitcher for a long period of time. He threw hard, had a pretty good breaking ball, but it has not worked out that well for him. He's been traded a couple of times, and he's been down to the minor leagues. Now he is back with the Seattle Mariners.
Brian Clark working out of the bullpen now, a veteran presence on this club. We're at the Kingdome in Seattle. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. 5-1. The defending Eastern Division champion Blue Jays leading the upstart Mariners out here trying to sweep this series. We're in the 6th inning. Next week we'll be at Comiskey Park in Chicago. And it's the last go-round for that great old ballpark. They're moving into a new one there on the south side of Chicago next week. 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Pacific. We hope you'll be with us, and that's every Sunday at those same times. There's a runner at first base. That's Manny Lee. As Junior Felix stands at the plate. Felix is homered. He's singled. He's hitting .319. You see Manny Lee getting his lead over there. It didn't look like he'd have that kind of power, does he?
No, he doesn't.
0-1 the count. Felix hit a home run at the Sky Dome last year that was such a long blast that a scout, Ed Farmer, former big league pitcher, said, gee, if that's Junior Felix, I'd love to see Senior. He must really be something. It's actually his name, Junior Francisco Felix. This guy, he's 22 years old. He may be a big star in this game for a long time to come. He's got enormous ability.
Yes, he started off very well last year, and then he slowed down the second half of the season, but he had an injury that a lot of people didn't know about. Talking to Cito Gaston, so that was the reason that he struggled. He had a shoulder injury, and it's made him, his bat speed, lost a lot of his bat speed, so he did not swing the bat as well down the stretch.
And you see there, he hasn't hit well batting right-handed. but he certainly hit well tonight batting right-handed.
Again, I think you'll find that most switch hitters, until they get quite a few at-bats under their belt, will have a worse percentage against the left-handed pitcher if they're a switch hitter than they will the other side.
There's not much left-handed pitching around right now. It's a real premium commodity. Diving is Martinez, and he got the force out at second base. Reynolds covering, and the side is retired. Nicely done, taking away the possible base hit from Junior Felix and ending the inning. Blue Jays have some power coming up. Last of the 6th, 5-1 Toronto.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, brought to you by the Century 21 system. Put your trust in #1 by Thompson's Water Seal, the first name in lasting protection, and by Lennox. When it comes to quality in heating and cooling, must be a Lennox.
Here's Alvin Davis, and as we go to the last of the 6th inning, Davis will be followed by Leonard and Griffey. And the Mariners have a great deal of work to get done here, trailing 5-1.
But they will get another shot at Cerruti. If they take advantage of it, will be the question. When I say they will get a shot at him, they're going to get a couple of men on base, and they're going to need a big hit.
Davis has grounded out twice. He came up there in a spot in the 3rd inning where, with a base hit, he could have driven in 2 runs, but it was a 2-out situation. And he ended up grounding out the first. 1-1 pitch. Foul. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Alvin's very analytical up there. He's always got an idea. He studies pitches, patterns. He's constantly tinkering with his own stance. He says that's what's great about Ken Griffey Jr. He doesn't do any of that stuff.
No, he says, I see the ball, I hit the ball. That's as simple as you can make it.
Davis had a great rookie year when he drove in 116 runs. Not many rookies do that. But he said the next year he was already making adjustments, and he said he over-adjusted. That's a ball. Went through that so for
sophomore jinx.
Yeah. He says so far Griffey, who finished up slowly last year, they say maybe he had his sophomore jinx in September. Base hit for Alvin Davis. So here come the Mariners again, right back after Cerruti. So far just the 1 run though.
I believe they will get a couple of base hits and get a couple of guys on base. So whether they can take advantage of that situation or not, we'll wait and see. But Cerruti will start to give up a few base hits this late in the ball game. Nice swing by Davis. It was a fastball about the middle of the plate, and he pulled it in the hole.
Alvin Davis has now reached base in all but 1 game in the last 43. He's always on base. Gets a lot of walks. His on-base average is up over 420. Jeffrey Leonard, the hitter.
Well, this is a situation where Leonard has to be patient, make sure he gets a good pitch to hit. So he doesn't. He chases the fastball low and away. And that's what he's done so far in this ball game. With a guy like Cerruti, that's why I say Alvin Davis should hit him well, because he's patient and he waits and gets a good pitch. The other guys in the lineup, in the murderer's row as we call it, mini murderer's row, they're all pretty much free swingers. They swing at just about anything.
That's a base hit for Jeffrey Leonard. Alvin Davis will stop at second base, and now the table is set for Ken Griffey Jr. Now we've got 2 of the league's leading hitters coming up back-to-back, Griffey and then Martinez. And this is just the way they like it when these guys come up.
Well, Jeffrey did a good job there. He got a fastball middle of the plate in, and he drove it to left field. I think Cerruti was trying to throw it down in a way like the previous pitch, but he got it in the middle of the plate and base hit to left. And this is what the fans came to see, Ken Griffey Jr. in this type of situation. And 8 of his 10 home runs this year have been game-tying home runs or put the team ahead. So he can't do either here, but
0-1.
it would definitely excite the fans.
Well, he could get him right back into it anyway. Whether he is able to tie it or put him ahead or not, he could set him up to do that later.
And true to his word, he swung at the first pitch all 3 times he's been at the plate, so he just sees the ball and tries to hit it.
The last time he hit that first pitch up the middle for a single. The first time he grounded out. Now same pitch, and he took it this time.
They seem to be trying to work him inside. A lot of young hitters have more trouble with the fastball inside than they do out over the plate because they can extend their arms out over the plate. And to hit the inside fastball, you have to pull through with that bottom hand.
Came back with it again. 1-2 the count.
And they're staying inside on him. The balance in Griffey's swing is very good. He just chases a bad pitch.
Well, now he's behind in the count. 1 ball, 2 strikes. They've thrown that pitch 3 straight times. You look for it here?
Well, he hopes that he will, but as you say, Griffey doesn't look for pitches. He just kind of hits what he sees. I think it's time for him to go away with a breaking ball that even waits one, and then maybe come back inside again.
2 men on, nobody out. Here it comes. Came back with it again.
Stay right inside.
I guess they figured there, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I guess so.
They say Griffey makes little adjustments, though. I mean, if you get him out with something, then you won't be able to get him out with it the next time.
I think the way it was described to me by Gene Clines was perfect. He said he hates to be embarrassed. If a pitcher embarrasses him on a pitch, he will make him pay for it.
Crowd very quiet, very tense right now in this ballpark. Is Griffey going to be able to get the big hit to get him back into it? 2-2 the count. Olerud, and he got him. Leonard forced out at second base. Olerud had a little trouble getting the ball out of his glove, and he double clutched. Davis over to third. And Griffey safe at first.
He gets a fastball out over the plate a little bit, about the middle of the plate. He grounds it to Olerud. He can't get it out cleanly the first time. Gets it there in time to force Leonard at second, but that's all. It was not a double play ground ball because with the speed of Griffey, they would not have had a chance to double him up at first base.
Well, here's Edgar Martinez. He is 0 for 2. He came into the game hitting .352. 5-1 Toronto ahead. Now they've got a runner at third. And we're in the 6th. They've got to start chipping away at that Blue Jays lead here. And Cerruti starts him with a strike.
Well, they've had a couple of runners on, as I said, but whether they get the big hit would be the question. Griffey did not get the big hit in this situation. Now it's up to Martinez and maybe Darnell Cole. So the Blue Jays need to chip away, as you mentioned, but they've got a perfect situation here. I wouldn't be surprised as well to see Griffey run.
Inside, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Because, as I mentioned, that's the way that Lefebvre plays.
2 men on. There's Alvin Davis. He's at third base. He led off the inning with a single. There's Griffey over at first base. After Leonard's single, he hit into a force play. Only 1 out. The Mariners, rather, have 7 hits in the game, but only 1 run. They've out-hit the Blue Jays. And that's what Griffey's got to be careful about if he does run, because of that deceptive move of Cerruti.
He doesn't have a big lead at first base, so he's probably not going to be running in this situation.
Here's the 1-1 pitch. Gruber gets the force out, but not the double play, and Davis held at third. Gruber could have gotten the double play had he fielded it cleanly.
Well, if he would have fielded it cleanly, the great play, because that was hit like a shot, and it got a lot. He didn't get a lot of leather on this ball. I think he caught it with his bare hands. He gets his whole body in front of it, which is the way to do it. He comes up with it. He's not even thinking about Alvin Davis, who should have been going on the play. Anytime you're at third base and there's a runner at first and they're trying to make a double play, you have to go.
So Martinez is at first now. Davis still at third. And when they've got a double play situation, I mean, you'd prefer that they go after you, right?
Well,
just
you
for
have to send the guy at third because you want him to take you to stay out of the double play, so you keep the rally going. or you take the run. They didn't do either. So that's a poor base running mistake by the Mariners there.
Darnell Coles is the hitter. Coles 0 for 2 tonight, but he's 6 for 14 lifetime against John Cerruti. He's had past success against him. 1-0 the count. That's a strike.
Ken Griffey Jr. goes after Manny Lee to try to break up the double play, but only because Martinez was fast enough to get to first base was it not completed. Griffey's slide, his dive at the shortstop really didn't affect the play that much.
Bullpen activity for the Blue Jays meanwhile. Cerruti has been bending in the last 3 or 4 innings, but he won't yield here. On the outside corner, called strike 2.
Well, he was pretty fortunate on the ball that Martinez hit because he hit it like a shot.
Steve Cummings in the bullpen.
And if it wasn't hit right directly at Gruber at third, they would have had a run and runners maybe on first and third.
They've had 7 hits against him. He's walked a batter. He's thrown a wild pitch, but he has allowed just 1 run. They've had 2 hits in this inning. They had 2 hits in the 5th, 1 hit in the 4th, and 2 in the 3rd, but just 1 run out of all of that. Gruber to Manny Lee for the force out on Martinez, and he gets out of it. 2 on, nobody out, no runs scored. Blue Jays lead, in which you can order a pizza and have it delivered directly to your seat. Is this service or what? No more long lines waiting for your pizza. They bring it right out to your seat now. Here he comes. And where is he going now?
Pizza delivery. Pizza.
He's in the booth.
Pizza delivery for Mr. Joe
Hey,
Morgan.
I'll take
Pizza
it.
delivery,
For Joe
Mr.
Morgan.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Mr. Morgan, that'll be $13.50.
Oh, wait a minute.
Joe, thanks. You're buying?
Joe,
Thanks a
on behalf
lot.
of Kingdom, the Seattle Mariners, and the city of Seattle, this one's on the house.
Thank you
Enjoy
very
it,
much.
guys.
I told you the hospitality was great here in Seattle.
I love this place.
Thank you.
All right.
You
I
can't
thought it
have
was-
any of my pizza, though.
Hey, he said it was on the house, Joe. If you were paying $13.50, you could take it. All right, time to dig in. Here we go now. 7th inning. The Blue Jays leading 5-1. Top of the order. Octavio Cabeza Fernando is the hitter. Tony Fernandez.
You don't mind if I just say Tony, right?
It's all right with me. Line drive to Giles. He was going left. That one was hooking a little bit. And had to reach back to his right. But he got it. 1 out. What kind of pizza is it, Joe?
Pepperoni.
Hey.
One of my favorites.
What else do they deliver here? Anything? Let's order everything in here. Mookie Wilson, the hitter. He's walked, he's popped out, and he's hit a sacrifice fly. Ball 1. You were a little surprised there, weren't you, when they said $13.50?
Yes, I was surprised when he came through the door, and even more surprised at the $13.50. That's an expensive pizza.
Well, you get this like a lot of service, though, thrown in, right? 2-0 the count. I see. If you had ordered it and you were going to pay, you'd just get the plain cheese. You wouldn't get all the pepperoni.
No, I have to have some extras on mine.
2-0 the count. And Mookie into left center. Ken Griffey Jr. is there. Now let's go back to baseball tonight and Dave Marish.
Well, John, while you and Joe eat your slices, here's a play for Joe. Great middle infield play. Melito Perez has it go off his glove to Fletcher, who can't make the throw, gives it to Guillen, who can. 1-4, 6-3 for the out. The White Sox win it 2-1 over Detroit.
That's an excellent play by the middle infielders working together. It's really like a double play.
And that's why they're winning right now. They're making plays like that all the time. Gruber with a hard one-hopper to short. Giles with an easy play. And the Blue Jays go down in order. Only the second time in the game that has happened. Toronto 5, Seattle 1. We'll be back. John Miller and Joe Morgan. There's the view from up in the center of the dome, looking down on the playing field at the Kingdome in Seattle, where one day soon they're hoping that They'll be playing baseball in October. It hasn't come close to happening yet. And it's still a very young ball club, but they have gone about the business of building for the future, and the future is looking very nice. But right now, the present belongs to the Blue Jays, who lead the game 5-1, threatening to sweep this series. Here's Brian Giles. He has driven in, fittingly enough, the only run that the Mariners have scored on a home run. He's had 6 at-bats against Toronto this year and has hit 3 homers and a double in that time, and has driven in 8 runs.
That's a pretty good season for some guys.
He's had seasons that weren't that good.
Right, and especially against one team, and it's only halfway through the season, not even halfway.
2-1 the count. Matt Sinatro will follow, and then the top of the order against John Cerruti, who's weathered every storm up till now.
He weathered a big storm in the 6th inning, bottom of the 6th. They had their first 2 runners on, with 2 of the league's leading hitters coming up back-to-back, Ken Griffey Jr. and Edgar Martinez, and he got out of the jam.
2-2 to Giles. And that's foul. Cerruti went to Amherst. His wife, Claudia, is an attorney, and I said, if you weren't playing baseball, what would you be doing? He said, I'd probably be a lawyer. He then said, I hate to say that. I hate to admit it.
Why is that?
I don't know. That's what I said. I have nothing against attorneys. 2-2 the count. Full count, 3-2.
The last time up, Giles hit the ball to right field for a home run, and Cerruti has pitched him inside this entire at bat with off-speed pitches. Now that he's probably going to go and throw him a fastball, he may go away again.
And he did. Giles able to foul it off. Pitcher's up a little bit. 3-2. Cerruti says that, as you see Giles, he's come alive in May, mostly against the Blue Jays. He learned mechanics early. When he was in Babe Ruth League, he had a coach named Ron Morrison that he credits for teaching him the mechanics that he still uses today. Base hit for Brian Giles. Brian Giles needs more games against the Blue Jays.
Well, what happens is there are some teams pitch you inside, other teams pitch you outside. And apparently the Toronto Blue Jays believe that they can get him away outside, at least before the last couple of at-bats. Now they go away again after trying to stay inside, and Giles drives the ball to right field for a base hit. From our overhead camera, we can see Giles dive into the ball with his front side, and the pitch is out there, so he can go that way very easily. Cerruti tried to throw him inside with the breaking ball and make him pull it, but when he went to 3-2, he had to throw a strike, and Giles was waiting on it.
It was an interesting shot from the overhead camera, too, seeing where the ball is in relation to the plate, how far he really had to lean out from it. Sometimes the center field camera, always an interesting shot, but sometimes it's not lined up just right. It can be a little bit deceiving. 5-1, Toronto ahead. Here's Matt Sinatro, another base runner for Seattle. They've had 8 hits in the game, but all singles except for the Giles home run.
There's a delay in the action. The 2 umpires are going to talk. Rick Reed came in from second base. And he told Joe Brinkman something. Now Brinkman's going behind the plate.
That's Reed going back to second, but Brinkman is coming back behind the plate to the backstop. Oh, that's a door out in left center field, and we're getting the word that somebody wants it closed out there. That leads into the outside.
But I don't see where it's distracting anyone or anything.
Maybe Reed is cold. There shall be no outside air in the kingdom. Maybe that's it. You know, this ballpark used to look very drab and dank. I always thought it looked like a Gothic monastery where you should go in and never make any noise, maybe light some candles. But they really dressed it up and brightened it up. Much more cheery in here now than it used to be.
It's definitely a beautiful looking ballpark with the new colors and the things they've added. So I think it's going to be it's a very, it's a lot of fun to come in here.
There's ball one to Matt Sinatro. Next week will just be outside. They can leave all the doors open they want at Comiskey Park. The oldest ballpark still in use in the major leagues, but this is its final year. Next Sunday night. Swing and a miss. We got to look at that great play tuned in by the Chicago White Sox infield there a moment ago from Dave Marish. The White Sox have played that way. I mean, their defense is second to no one's right now. They're making all the plays.
Well, that's what happened to Baltimore last year. That's why they had such a good season. They turned it around defensively, especially in the outfield.
Sinatro, a little ground ball, lead to Fernandez for the force out. They get the lead runner, Giles. Mariners have had a hard time moving up base runners in this game. They're getting them, but then they've done nothing with them.
Well, they got the first 2 runners on in the bottom of the 6th inning. Then they had 3 straight fielders' choices. Manny Lee throws to Tony Fernandez, but he's made up his mind already that they can only get 1 out of it. And you see Tony getting out of the way of the sliding base runner.
There's Steve Cummings, a right-hander, warming up in the Toronto bullpen again. He was up in the 6th inning. That's Jim Acker down at the bottom of the screen there, kind of protecting him there. As so many foul balls that might come down in that area. And here's John Cerruti to Harold Reynolds, the leadoff hitter. Ball 1. Reynolds 1 for 3. A switch hitter batting right-handed. Meanwhile, in the Mariner bullpen, there's some activity. Brent Nackert, a young, hard-throwing right-hander, up again. Ball 2. 2-0 the count. Reynolds, by the way, if you have not been with us throughout the ball game, is wearing that Band-Aid. In the very first inning of the game, Mookie Wilson stole second to throw down, deflected off Mookie and deflected off Reynolds' glove and right up and cut his chin. Could be 2. Fernandez will take it, and it's an easy 2. That's the second inning ending double play they've had the last 3 innings. Started by Fernandez. 5-1 Toronto. Now the Budweiser storyline. Let's take a look at the storyline of tonight's game at the Kingdome. 5-1. The Blue Jays on top. Cerruti 7 strong innings. Just the 1 run. Johnson knocked out in the 6th. Gave up 3 homers, including the back-to-back homers from Lee and Phoenix. And then Pat Borders with a big 2-run homer in the 6th. That made it 5-1 Toronto. We've got another new pitcher into the game now for the Seattle Mariners as we go to the 8th inning. It is Brent Nackert, the young right-hander. I mean, young. He is 20 years of age, just like Ken Griffey Jr. Claimed on waivers from the New York Mets on April the 5th toward the end of spring training. He's a hard thrower, and in the springtime of the Mets, he displayed that, but they just had no room for him. So here he is, and he brings it up into the mid-90s, we're told. Strike 1 to George Bell. Bell is 1 for 3.
We mentioned that George Bell is a good RBI man, and I think he's still underrated player in the American League.
That one is deep down the left field line, but foul. Plenty of distance for a home run.
Because when you think of, you know, the good players in the American League, Ken Sako, Mattingly, Puckett, those guys come to mind. But I think George Bell, for what he does for the Toronto Blue Jays, is a very, very fine player. He drives in runs. He's driven over 600 runs in his 6 years in the major leagues. And he's been the most valuable player in the league one time. He had 47 home runs that year and drove in 134 runs.
Fastball inside, 1 ball and 2 strikes.
There you can see the voting, but I'm not talking about that so much as just the fact that he's underrated as far as the public is concerned.
George Bell, he was voted the MVP in 1987. It was almost impossible not to vote for him that year. The pitch outside. Alan Trammell had a great year, but Bell hit 47 homers. He drove in more than 130 runs. And he's one of those guys, he wants to be there when the game's on the line and they need the man to be driven in. He wants to be up.
That's the other part of his personality that really helps the Toronto Blue Jays.
That's into right center. Coles is going back, and it's over his head and off the wall. And Bell will be held to a single. Nice throw by Coles right into second base as Bell went back to first.
Well, you can tell that Coles has taken a lot of balls off the wall in right field and knows exactly how to play the carom out there. Bell drives the ball. It's out over the plate. and he drives it to right field. Nice compact swing by George Bell. Cole sees he can't make the catch, so he plays it off the wall, one hop, barehanded, and fires it to second base. Bell has to hold with a single.
And he's going, not holding for long. He takes off as the ball is fouled away on the hit and run by Pat Borders. Well, you mentioned the nice compact swing and where he hit the ball. Joe, is that why Bell is so often up near 300?
Well, he has a good compact swing. He has a level swing. He puts a little uppercut in it every once in a while when he wants to go for the long ball, but he is a good hitter as well as a power hitter. He has a very good level swing.
Looking at Pat Borders, the hitter, 1 for 3 with a home run in this game. 5-1. The Blue Jays lead. We're in the 8th inning. Foul. George Bell, a lifetime .289 hitter in the big leagues. He's had 2 different seasons where he's hit over 300 and also hit for power. Hit .309 one year, 31 homers. .308 the next year, 47 homers.
He's just a very good player. I just think that, you know, he's a guy that doesn't get quite the recognition, as I mean from the fans, not from his peers, because they all know that he can play.
Down the right field line, but foul. Slicing back and dropping in amongst the spectators. 0-2 the count to Pat Borders. Well, one thing about Bell, and this is, I know from just talking with you, Joe, that real high praise from another ball player is the fact that when you ask them about Bell, they say always plays. He's playing hurt.
Another good point.
He's a tough guy. Strike 3 for Borders, and Sinatro tries to pick off Bell. A little late over there. 1 out.
Nackert threw a very tough slider to Borders, down and away. Good breaking ball. Breaks down and away. It starts in the strike zone, then breaks out of the strike zone. Borders comes up and tries to pick George Bell off at first base. Bell gets back before he can apply the tag.
That'll bring up Glenn Allen Hill. Hill, a right-handed hitter. Blue Jays are making it look kind of easy tonight. They hit the home runs. I mean, they're getting the runs quickly. This is Rance Mullenix, by the way, a pinch hitter for Glenn Allen Hill. Beg your pardon. The veteran, Rance Mullenix. An infielder's been around a long time. He's hitting well. He's a very good professional hitter. Last night when McGriff was beamed and had to leave the game, they put Mullenix in at first base. It's the only time he's ever played there professionally. And he got it done.
I'm sure he's worked out there doing infield or, you know, caught some ground balls there during spring training.
Cito's other option was to put Olerud at first base. He's a first baseman, but he was the DH. He didn't want to lose his DH. Mullenix, though, it was fitting that he should do that, I guess, last night, because he's done a little bit of everything for a long, long time for this ball club. Played all over the infield otherwise. He pinch hits, been a platoon player, he's hit over 300. Nackert with a move to first. Bell is back. Cito says also, hey, he's an athlete. He's an all-round athlete. Used to be a very fine basketball player in school from the small town of Porterville, California.
Porterville. Ball gets away from in the bullpen, and time is called by Joe Brinkman at home plate.
Rance's father, Harvey Mullenix, was a pitcher in the Yankees organization back in the 50s. It's a real athletic family. 2-0 the count to Rance Mullenix. In the right field, but Coles is right there. And Mullenix is retired. 2 men gone. Bell holding it first.
First baseman John Olerud.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Wow. You mean we're on Sunday Night Baseball? This is the greatest day of my life. I'm awed. Wow. Call Mom and tell her. Here's Olerud. That's probably one of his relatives. He's got over 100 passes out tonight. Friends, family, relatives. I guess relatives and family would be pretty much the same. A little bit of a redundancy there.
Well, he may put some on the family list and some on the guest list.
Ah. Big John Olerud. There's Mom and Dad, Dr. John Olerud there, and his lovely wife, Linda. And it's a strike to Olerud. You know, Olerud is talking about all-around athletes. They tell me that as a left-handed pitcher, he throws over 90 miles an hour. In college, he went 15-0. And they sent him to the instructional league after this past season to let him pitch. Pat Gillick, general manager of the Blue Jays, says, I don't have the courage to have him do both.
Well, it would be a first, I guess. Babe Ruth did it for a little while, but I don't think many pitchers have been given the opportunity to do both. They usually make you concentrate on one or the other. Either you're a hitter or you're a pitcher, but that's tough when you have a guy like Olerud who could probably do both things.
2-1 delivery, and that's low. Another Hall of Famer, Frank Robinson. He feels that, hey, if he can throw 90-something, let him do it. Let's say he's in a game as a DH and you need a left-hander to get a left-handed hitter out in a spot. Why not bring him in there?
Well, I don't know if you could do it like that. You have to give him chances to pitch. You can't just say all of a sudden go out there and get a hitter out. He's going to have to be in the rotation or in the bullpen.
It was a swing and a miss. The throw is in the dirt, and Bell steals it. His first steal of the year. Some of the fans think that they had Bell over there.
Bell gets a good jump, and Sinatro comes up and fires, but the ball short hops Giles, and as he tags him, Bell is already on the bag. Good call.
Bell once stole as many as 21 bases in a big league season. Doesn't steal many anymore. Time taken. Sinatro out to talk to Nackert.
Well, what he wants to remind him of is that Manny Lee is on deck, a right-handed hitter. Well, but he'll jump over to the other side also. But Olerud is a little better power hitter than Manny Lee right now, so I think they feel like they may want to go at Manny Lee rather than pitching to Olerud, but it's 3 balls and 2 strikes. I don't think you ever walk a guy with a 3-ball 2-strike count. Remember 1972 World Series, they had a 3-ball 2-strike count on Johnny Bench, and they thought they were going to walk him through a strike on the outside corner. Innings over.
I remember that. Rollie Fingers. 3-2 pitch, and he walked him. Joe, go talk to this young fella. Brent Nackert, only 20 years of age, the youngest pitcher in the major leagues. Here's Bell.
This is George Bell over at first base. He gets a pretty good lead. He's in a straight line to second base. That's what I like to see with a guy taking his lead, because that's the shortest distance. And he breaks right down the line, and he runs the shortest distance between first and second. A lot of guys take their leads in front of the bag or behind it, and that makes them have to run an extra half step. And if he would have run an extra half step there, he would have been out. So close plays are made up by your lead at first base.
This is Manny Lee. He's hit a home run. He struck out, and he's had an infield hit. 2 for 3. He's hitting .289. Some of that deep depth of the Blue Jays. He's done particularly well when he's had a man at second base or third base. He's got a man at second right now, George Bell. Fouled out of play. Olerud, by the way, who just got the walk from the 20-year-old Nackert, who's backed up in center field by the 20-year-old Griffey. Olerud at the ripe old age of 21. He's the old guy out there.
Well, you mentioned earlier that they have a very fine young ball club. Meaning Seattle with all their young guys, but Toronto's a young ball club as well.
They do have a lot of young talent on this Toronto ball club. They seem to always be able to bring somebody up for the minors. There's Bell at second. Olerud at first. Olerud, they kind of they pulled a fast one. He was committed to staying for his senior year at Washington State. And it is 2-2 to Manny Lee. And everybody believed him. And as we understand it, he believed it himself. But Pat Gillick was an old friend of his father's. They drafted him in the 3rd round, I guess, saying maybe we could talk him into it. And they did.
Always helps if you're friends of families.
Olerud, who almost died after his sophomore year. He underwent surgery in February of 1989 for the removal of a brain aneurysm, which was at the base of the brain. And almost died, but came back and then was back playing and had another great year in college, and already he's in the big leagues. It's not even a year removed from his intercollegiate days. And here's Olerud in a pennant race with the Blue Jays, and he's a regular. Three-two pitch, runners going, and it's a lazy fly ball into left center. Cotto will take it with Griffey alongside. Blue Jays leave a couple. Into 7.5 though. Blue Jays 5, Mariners 1. And we're glad to be here. We've been made to feel very welcome at the Kingdome in Seattle. But the hosts themselves have been treated rather rudely by the Toronto Blue Jays, the villains of the piece as far as the folks here are concerned. John Cerruti, most particularly out there, continuing to dazzle him. Henry Cotto has a count of 2 balls and no strikes. We're getting into that time of the game now, and the Blue Jays bullpen becomes omnipresent. That's a foul off to the left, and they've got activity going out there right now. And in fact, the man warming up out there, as you see Mike Schooler, the right-hander, also working in the Seattle bullpen. The left-hander warming up in the Toronto bullpen. Here's the 2-1 delivery. Ground ball to third, fielded by Gruber. Go to first in the dirt, and Olerud cannot dig it out. So the error by Gruber, just ahead of the power. Davis is coming up, then Leonard, Griffey, and Martinez.
Gruber backs up on it, but he comes back forward and just makes a low throw. And he's disappointed in the fact that Olerud couldn't come up with it. And he's upset with himself for not making a better throw. It's really not that bad a throw. And Major League first baseman actually should come up with that play.
Part of the job over there.
Yeah, they should make that play.
Now Alvin Davis, the hitter. Alvin is 1 for 3 in the game, hitting .318. 5-1, Toronto leading. And he misses. No, he got the curve over the outside. I beg your pardon. 0-2 the count. There's David Wells. Now Wells is the man who took Cerruti's place in the starting rotation, and we're mentioning that Cerruti felt that tonight was his chance to win a job back in the rotation. I wonder after 7 if he's already won it. Wells warming up out there. 2-strike delivery. Got him swinging.
He took a little something off of the curveball, and Alvin Davis was fooled by the speed, not the break of the ball. Because it's a breaking ball that kind of stays inside, but it's a slow curve, a little slower than the other curveball, and you can see Davis is way out in front of the breaking ball, so it was the speed that bothered him more than the break.
Now with 1 out and 1 on, here is Jeffrey Leonard. Leonard, who had a career high of over 93 RBIs last year, drives one for a base hit here. His second straight hit, and he is 2 for 4. Now you've got the left-handed hitting Griffey coming up. And the crowd is eagerly anticipating his arrival, but Cito Gaston has also anticipated this situation. He's got the hard-throwing Wells in the bullpen, and Cito is out to the mound.
I would think that Cito's going to make a change because, you know, he didn't expect to get this much out of Cerruti, and he's done a good job. Yes, he's going to make a change. David Wells will be coming in.
Well, Cerruti thrown over 110 pitches, way over any other game he's pitched this year. So Cito comes out with a hook, but maybe Cerruti will be back in 5 days with another start. 5-1 the score. We'll be back as that man, David Wells, faces Ken Griffey Jr. after this. Back at the Kingdome in Seattle, the Mariners trying to mount a comeback here late in the game. 8th inning. David Wells trying to keep them from mounting it. Wells, big hard thrower, Joe.
Yes, he is. And actually, I think this works to Ken Griffey Jr.'s advantage. I think the way that he hits, see the ball, hit the ball, I think he's better off hitting against a hard thrower. And he is a good fastball hitter. And left-handers do not seem to bother him. So this may be a better matchup for Griffey in this situation than it would have been against Cerruti.
He's 1 for 3 tonight. 2 men on, 1 man out in the 8th inning. Threw him a breaking ball, and Griffey hits a lazy fly ball into left center, and just like that, he is retired. Now, in the Toronto bullpen, they've got further activity going with the ace of the bullpen, that man, the hulking figure of Tom Henke.
Henke is the ace. He's the stopper.
Well, he has just been tremendous ever since he came on with the Blue Jays back in 1985. We may be able to talk about him more a little bit later. Here is Edgar Martinez. Well, Griffey 1 for 4. Now Martinez is hitless. He has not often gone hitless this year.
Well, he's hit the ball hard his last at bat, but he hit it right at the third baseman, Kelly Gruber.
The base runners, Henry Cotto, who reached on a Gruber error at second, and Leonard, who singled to center, is at first. 2 men down. Both runners ready to go in anything here. Ball 1. David Wells, 27 years of age, just celebrated a birthday last Sunday. And he's a great big guy, as you can see. Very strong, throws very hard. And when they brought him in tight spots, Joe, he's been excellent. He's faced 16 batters coming into games and retired all but one of them. And he gets that man out.
Well, that's why they wanted to put him in the rotation. When Cerruti was having problems, they said, hey, this guy's done a great job out of the bullpen. Let's put him in the rotation and see what he can do. They were searching for some starters, so this guy was a logical choice.
2-0 the count. 5-1 Toronto ahead. Got the outside corner with a fastball. 2-1. Wells is such a huge fellow. George Bell decided that working in relief was the best thing for him. Keeps him busy. He said if he's going to be in the rotation the rest of the year, he's going to weigh 300 pounds by the time the season's over.
I'm sure he'll take care of himself if he gets in the rotation. I'm sure the pitching coach will make sure he takes care of himself.
George, give the guy a break. Broken bat, speaking of breaks, to shortstop. Giles throws him out. And they've been able to shut down that young duo of Griffey and Martinez. And they're leading 5-1. The Blue Jays are leading at the end of 8. Don't forget, tomorrow on the holiday, 3 ball games on ESPN as we continue to bring you baseball as it has never been brought to you before. 2 o'clock, the Giants and the Cubs from Wrigley Field. Kevin Mitchell is red hot, and the balls have been flying out of Wrigley this weekend. Then at 7:30 Eastern, it's the Mets and the red hot Cincinnati Reds. Joe and I will be there. We're looking forward to getting our first look at Lou Pinella's red hot ball club. And after our ball game, it'll be these Toronto Blue Jays at Oakland as a rematch of last year's American League Championship Series. All the baseball you want tomorrow on ESPN. Here at the Kingdome, the ace of the Mariner bullpen needs a little work. Mike Schooler coming on. Not in a save situation as is usually the case when he works, but just, Joe, I guess to keep him sharp.
Well, like you said, they need some work, and relief pitchers do not like to sit down there, especially stoppers, and miss 3 or 4 ball games in a row. So he wants to pitch. They're going to give him an inning in, and hopefully he can keep him close, and they can give a shot for it in the bottom of the 9th.
Now Junior Felix batting left-handed for the first time. He goes after the first pitch, and Reynolds shovels it to Davis. And Felix is 2 for 4. 1 away. We're at the Kingdome in Seattle. Yep. It's going to get him a nice cool refreshment and a sausage apparently at the concession stand there. We only, when we're up here in the booth, can get that if they deliver. That'll be $3, yeah. Here's Tony Fernandez, the Blue Jays shortstop. He's 0 for 3 with a walk. He's now batting left-handed. Toronto got a very diversified lineup. They got speed, they've got power, and they've got a lot of switch hitters, 5 of them on the active roster right now.
Well, that's why they're always contenders in the American League East, because they can put some numbers on the board, and being switch hitters, it keeps the opposing staff on the defense all the time. The ideal lineup is when you can put a right-hander, left-hander, right-hander, left-hander, and you alternate. That keeps them from bringing in a guy who can pitch to 2 or 3 hitters in a row and have the advantage. And when you have a group of switch hitters, as Toronto does, that's just an automatic given. There's no way you can stack your pitching staff or set it up so that you have the advantage over their hitters.
2 strikes to Fernandez. The left side has been his strong side this year. Off the fists against Schooler. Edgar Martinez will handle it for out number 2. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. It'll be interesting tomorrow, that ball game in Oakland, the Blue Jays and Oakland. It'll be Dave Stieb, the ace right-hander of the Jays starting rotation, against Mike Moore. There's no love lost between these clubs. I think they dislike each other.
Well, I think it stems a lot from last year's American League Championship Series. The Blue Jays felt like the A's were rubbing it in a little bit when they hit home runs and, were beating them pretty badly. So I think there will be some hard feelings left over from that American League Championship season.
Well, sure enough, they played each other this past Monday and Tuesday, and in the first game, the first batter was Ricky Henderson, and Stottlemyre threw one that was too close for Ricky's comfort. Ricky shouted out at him. Stottlemyre shouted back, and then both benches emptied right now.
They were all prepared and ready. Luckily, no punches were thrown.
2-2 the count to Mookie Wilson. Mike Schooler, he's tough. You think of closers, you maybe think of guys like Henke and Righetti, the young Greg Olson in Baltimore. There are some good ones around. This fella is evolving as one of the best in the dirt. He had 33 saves last year.
I think Joe Brinkman would disagree with you when you said in the dirt right there, off of his shoulder.
There's Todd Stottlemyre. He's from this area, but didn't have to leave as many passes as did John Olerud, his teammate. He's from Yakima. Got some great names for towns in Washington. Yakima, Walla Walla, Nanaimo. Don't forget, right after the ball game, stay tuned for Sports Center. They'll have all the NBA and Major League Baseball highlights, also the Indy 500, and a profile on Ken Griffey Jr. 3-2 the count to Mookie Wilson, another one of those Blue Jays switch hitters. 5-1, Toronto ahead, 2 down, 9th inning. Fouled straight back. Now, Seattle has the last third of its batting order due up in the 9th, and they're probably going to have to face Tom Henke. He's warming up in the Blue Jay bullpen even as we speak. And looking at Oakland, that Oakland series for Toronto, as Henke. That's foul again by Mookie. David Wells, who came in to get the last couple of outs in the 8th inning with Seattle batting, he is due to start in Oakland on Tuesday, so this would have been maybe a time for him to do a little throwing on the side anyway.
Yes, I think that would be the case if he was in the starting rotation and on a normal 5-day basis.
Mookie draws the walk.
Third baseman Kelly Gruber.
So he didn't do a whole lot of throwing, right? It shouldn't affect, if he's going to start Tuesday, shouldn't affect him.
I would think that they would still keep that rotation that they've set up. But you never know, because, as I mentioned, David Wells was coming out of the bullpen, and if he throws on today like today, he may not want him to start because they may not be sure how long he can go on Tuesday coming back that quickly. Usually a guy in the bullpen may throw 2 innings and then come back 2 days later and throw another inning or so. But they may not want him to start today and then come back and pitch on Tuesday. I think you have to wait and see. I don't think they're sure of their rotation right now. When I talked to Cito before the ball game, he was saying that they were experimenting. They were going to see how Cerruti pitched today, and then they decide where they'd go after that.
Jimmy Key was originally scheduled to work today, but he's hurting. Cerruti, who just got sent to the bullpen, back in the rotation at least for this one, and he pitched beautifully. 7 1/3 innings from Cerruti He gave up 9 hits, but just 1 solo home run, and the rest were all singles. He only walked 1. Probably a vintage Cerruti performance. Gave up some hits, but not when they really counted.
The real key inning for him was the 6th inning when the Seattle Mariners got their first 2 hitters on, and then he induced them to hit 3 straight fielder's choices. 3 ground balls to the infield, and he got out of the inning.
And from Griffey, Martinez, and Coles. Wilson was running on the pitch, but Gruber pops one up into shallow right, and there's Coles to get it. And that ends the inning. Long night for Gruber. He was 6th in the league in hitting at the start of the game, but he's 0 for 5. Last chance for the Mariners coming up. Stay with us.
When this is the feeling of shaving.
John Miller along with Joe Morgan from the Kingdome in Seattle, and the Blue Jays have things well in hand, particularly now as that big fella comes on, Tom Henke, the ace of the Jays bullpen. He struggled at times this year, though, Joe.
Yeah, but he's a hard thrower, and he usually throws strikes, and he has a real good high fastball, and he throws a slider, but his fastball is his out pitch. And he's one of the best relief pitchers in the major leagues, no doubt about it.
He's pitched 23 innings, as you saw there, with 23 strikeouts. Tom Henke, 6 feet 5 inches tall. He's never really had a bad year since he came up with the Jays midway through the 1985 season. And largely because of his presence as the closer out there, the Blue Jays won their first ever divisional title that season. He's going to face Greg Briley, a pinch hitter for Darnell Coles off the Mariner bench. Briley, second-year man, and they like him an awful lot here in Seattle.
Well, he's got a very quick bat, good short stroke. I think he can be a good hitter.
So here's Henke to Briley. Swing and a miss. Oh, he foul-tipped it. It's 0-1.
He's not going to be a good hitter if he swings at that high fastball from Tom Henke. You've got to make Henke get the ball down. He's most effective when you chase that high fastball.
1 strike delivery. He went even higher with that one.
A lot of people swing at the high fastball because it's on the same plane as your head. You see it better out of the pitcher's hand. So you go right after it. No chance of hitting it, but you swing at it a lot.
And he makes short work of Briley with fastball away for strike 3.
And that's why he has 23 strikeouts in 23 innings.
And why in his career he strikes out a lot more than that usually. Wow. He's the all-time leader there.
I don't think that's a fair statistic, though, because most of the other guys are starters, and they have to pace themselves over 9 innings. He comes in for 1 inning right here, and he can throw as hard as he wants for those 3 batters. So I don't think that statistic is fair comparison between Nolan Ryan and Sandy Koufax.
On the other hand, he was ahead of Raditz and Ryan Duran.
Right. Those are equal comparisons, but the other 2 are not.
But he'd be ahead of all the other relievers, too. This is Brian Giles. For obvious reasons, they leave him in there against the Blue Jays. He's had a home run and a single in this game. Tom Henke, just to give you an idea, last year pitched 89 innings, and he struck out 116 batters. Ooh, he's pretty quick.
They can't seem to lay off the high fastball.
They may not be able to see it. He's up usually in the mid-90s. 1 year in 94 innings, Henke struck out 128 batters. We'll see a guy tomorrow night, perhaps, in Cincinnati who can do things like that. Rob Dibble.
Well, they have 2 guys. Randy Myers also. 2 hard-throwing relief pitchers. One right-handed, Dibble, and Myers being left-handed. Both of them awfully tough.
Here's Henke's windup. This is the 2-2 pitch. Gruber up with it. Out number 2. Giles is retired. Last chance for the Mariners. They're about to go down for the 4th straight time. The Blue Jays about to sweep this series, but it doesn't dampen their enthusiasm for Ken Griffey Jr., this young Mariner ball club. And they've got the Ken Griffey Jr. card, and they were able to get him to autograph it for him. Nice going, guys. Another pinch hitter up here for the Mariners with 2 down now. This is Scott Bradley, a left-handed hitting catcher. Up the first base side, foul. 0-1 the count. Next week now we'll be with you from Chicago, Comiskey Park, 8 o'clock Eastern. We get a look at the Minnesota Twins. Kirby Puckett, Kent Herbeck, Gary Gaetti, Dan Gladden. And they also made a big trade last year, sending Frank Viola to the Mets and got some very fine young pitching talent, much like these Mariners did with Langston.
A changeup from Hinkie. When a guy throws 90 miles an hour and you can throw a changeup, it's almost impossible for you to hit the changeup. You have to sit on the fastball and just look for it.
2-strike delivery. He struck him out. Hinkie with one perfect inning, strikes out 2. That's about par for the course. And the Blue Jays have swept this series as they head for Oakland and the world champion A's.
Well, they needed to go into Oakland on a hot streak because the Oakland A's are undoubtedly the best team in baseball along with the Cincinnati Reds. So you have to be hot if you're going in there.
5-1 Toronto over Seattle. The Blue Jays with 3 home runs in the ball game to win it. Don't forget now, we'll